Welcome to Cellmates 30 Days of Plus. I'm
no.
Dick. What?
Not 30 Days of Plus.
Oh, welcome to Cellmates 20 Days of Hulu Live.
Welcome to Cellmates. We are a normal podcast where we take two animated movies and we slap a Venn diagram over them. Compare, contrast, see what comes out. My name is Kate Phillips.
My name is Dick Ward.
And we have a special guest today.
It's
Hello,
Detective
special
Pikachu.
guest.
It is Detective Pikachu.
Whoa. You can talk?
He came to life.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh my gosh.
is here.
That was a bad Ryan Reynolds impression.
That was great. I loved it.
I am Andy Phillips.
Whoa.
Kate's brother.
Yeah.
And this is the second annual podcast with me. I can't imagine they've made
Podcast
any
giving.
Any more
without me.
podcasts without you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is. I'm sorry it's been such a delay since you've had a cellmate.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Friend of the podcast, brother of the podcast.
Yes,
You're the
both.
first guest that we've had on twice.
Oh.
Whoa.
Besides, we're not
you're
guests.
like
we're
like
hosts.
the Alec Baldwin of Cellmates.
Can I be Steve Martin?
No.
Instead.
You may not.
No.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, Andy,
Yes.
what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Devil's Hop Yard, a double dry hopped imperial. I am not one for IPAs, but this is absolutely delicious.
This is an IPA, but boozed up. So this makes sense that you would like this one.
And
interesting.
It's got like a sweetness to it.
It does.
Yeah.
Usually when like golden ales are boozed up, I do not appreciate those.
But that's usually what Imperial does to anything. Like, I like an Imperial Stout better than a Stout because it's a little bit sweeter. Anyway.
Yeah, this is really great. By the way, just like straight up recommendation to anyone.
So let me tell you what I wanted to buy in terms of a drink for this episode.
Hey, Kate, what did you want to buy
Yeah.
for a drink
There's
for
a
this episode?
bodega by us that has a bunch of beers. It's great. And there's one that I've seen that's called Saturday Morning Cartoons or Saturday Morning TV. And we
milk
see
stout?
it every time we've gone. And I'm like, great, we'll get this one for this episode. It'll be great. Well, they didn't have it this time. But as luck would have it, they did have one that has like a comic strip on, or not a comic strip, but like comic book panels.
Yeah.
Telling the story of a devil who grows hops, and there's a zap, mysterious powers.
It almost reminds me of like a Sunday Comics.
Or like a bubblegum Joe.
A Bazooka Joe?
Bazooka Joe.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and can I
it's
tell
like,
you?
like, you know, when you had like Spider-Man panels in the Sunday Comics and you got like just a tiny bit of story and then you had to wait.
Like a page or two.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it ends up being the origin story of Charlie/Hopman,
Charlie Hopman.
who looks like a devil.
Yeah,
like
and he
a purple
seems like
devil.
kind of a dick because he's just,
He also
he
glows
gets
green.
superpowers because he's jealous of
Well,
this guy.
And there's
No.
there's an old fashioned plane on this too. Look at this. All right.
And it's set in Connecticut.
So if we're talking
No,
about like
hold on a sec.
Oh.
Wait, Andy.
John's the glowing green guy. He's the bad guy.
well, the last panel, I was
Oh.
just
Charlie's gonna
Hopman is good.
Charlie's gonna wake up like Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker, and have like be tripping balls all night, and then it's just like I'm Super Jack now.
No. See, Charlie gets the girl. Love and jealousy begin to grow. This is where the tale of Charlie/Hopman begins.
I
so
read that as-
Hopman looks like he's a bad guy.
But that
Hopman-
we
that
don't know
makes me
that
think that
that might
Charlie
be
is
the
Hopman.
devil. The devil's hop yard.
Look,
Maybe
that's fair.
it's unclear.
Look, the point is,
So we're talking about Sam
We're-
Raimi's Spider-Man,
we're
a
talking-
non-animated feature film.
we are talking
oh, no.
specifically about beer can comics
Yes.
today.
Yeah.
But there are origin stories and comics involved.
Yeah, wait, what are we actually talking about?
So we invited Andy on the show, and we said, Andy, let's talk about sibling movies. And
Only
Andy
reason
said,
why I'm here.
Yeah, we
Screw
said
you.
let's do two movies with like a brother sister, like
We
a
had it all
sister-sister
paired out.
relationship.
and Andy said, no.
I'm
and
not
that's okay.
interested in that.
Uh,
Let's do Batman stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
It would be
don't
another
remember this.
episode in the future.
Andy, it
We
doesn't
can't-
matter. It's
It's
100%
fine.
on
Okay.
brand.
No, we're excited about these movies.
Okay.
So we're doing
Way to
two
call him out on the air.
superhero movies.
As I don't
he had a
remember
better
that
idea.
conversation.
He had a better idea.
So what are we? Andy, tell us what movies we're doing.
We are going to be talking about Batman Mask of the Phantasm, a theatrical release of the Batman animated series from 92. I believe it was released in 92 as well. And then DC Comics The New Frontier, direct-to-video DC animated movie that was done in the early 2000s, 2008.
Is it Justice League : New Frontier or just called New Frontier?
It is Justice League : New Frontier.
Okay.
The comic it was based on is just called New Frontier.
Is colon spelled out, or is it just the symbol?
It's just the two dots.
Okay.
It's the tall period and the low period. Regular
Is it
period.
a backward E with an umlaut?
No, but it is a C with the dot in it.
So we always start by talking about our experience with the films. So
And
go.
we also start by talking about why we paired these two movies
That's
together.
true.
But
That's
we did
also
kind of
true.
hit that, so we can move ahead.
Okay, cool.
Soups heroes.
So
Superheroes,
I'm going to
origin
start over
stories.
here, and we're going to work our way over. Andy, what was your first experience with Mask of the Phantasm?
My first experience was in my friend Alex Hoffman's basement watching this movie. And he had some special edition that had a comic that went with it.
Dope.
That wasn't a 1-to-1 for the movie to the comic, because I think the comic was 20 pages. But it was the first time I had seen Batman's origin story. And I was confused, but also really excited because there are a few different costume changes in the movie. I'm like, there's no, like, he starts off without a yellow bat symbol. I'm like, that's not right.
That's not Batman.
That's not Batman. I also remember being terrified of one scene in particular when, like, someone's been Jokerized and it just, like, you're not expecting it. And 8-year-old
so
Andy was
creepy.
always scared of that.
Yeah.
So that was my
Rightly
second
so.
question: is how old were you? This was like 8-year-old Andy.
Yeah, I would say, 7 or 8. It was probably first or second grade.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Kate?
I think I saw it maybe a couple years after that. It was with you.
It was
You
probably at the Hoffmans.
I don't think I have a memory of our family room, but it could be a Mandela or Mandala effect.
Yeah, Mandela effect.
But yeah, I do think it was at least after that first viewing, because I think that you were like, no, you have to see this. This is really good.
Yeah. I probably tried to convince you back. No, it's like you really
But
like
I did
it.
like Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
So I'm on
Who
board
doesn't?
for anything like that. So yeah, I remember seeing it as a child, but then not again before seeing it for this podcast. So I remembered like the big twist and nothing else.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to watch it with that way of like seeing some clues. It's not quite Sixth Sense, but there's some foreshadowing.
Yeah. Bruce
So,
Timm's a great storyteller.
spoiler alert!
Oops.
Before we talk about the big plot twist.
Yeah,
That's
watch
all.
out. We're going to spoil a 20-year-old movie.
Dick, what about you? 26.
27.
I saw this in theaters,
Holy.
Oh.
which is interesting because, yeah, we cuss. It's fine.
Holy snakes.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters, and I remember loving it. Also, weirdly, I remember Two-Face being involved, so I don't know.
That would have made it even better.
Yeah,
Two-Face is the best Batman villain, but
I
that's
I am not sure.
neither
Ooh.
here nor there.
I am not sure what the Two-Face movie that I'm thinking of is, and we'll research this later because I know Andy has
There
like
isn't one.
maybe it's an episode,
It might be
Yeah.
Almost Got Him.
but it's not Almost Got Him.
I love
promise.
Almost Got Him.
Right, but there are more episodes. There are about
There
No.
are more.
95.
There are no other-
94 more episodes of Batman.
Well, why would
Yes.
you make a Batman movie without the Joker? And if the Joker and the Two-Face are in it, Almost Got Him is a good
the
guess.
Two-Face.
The Two-Face.
Okay,
Like the Walmart.
so this is what year again? 98.
90?
I
Wait,
90
that
I
we
believe it
saw
is-
When did this come out?
believe it is 93 from my research, but it could be
93.
92.
Okay,
One of
so
those
I'm like,
years.
I'm like 11 or 12 at this point. Batman the Animated Series is all the rage.
Batam.
All the kids are loving it. This is after Tim Burton's Batman, but before Batman Returns.
I think it's like
Is
the
that what
year
we came
after
up with?
Batman
This
Returns.
is the year after.
Yeah.
So anyway, Batman
Yes.
is just 100% awesome at this point, and nothing in my mind has ever told me that Batman could be bad.
Yeah.
That being said, this was still my favorite Batman movie for a long time.
I mean, this is kind of the lore that this gets. Is like, this is the best Batman movie.
And it's, I don't know if,
Like
until
the other
it begins.
maybe, but I feel
be the
like some of these,
minority.
like, you get some like controversy of like people love it or they hate it. I feel like no one hates Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like everyone puts it
as
in
a
their top 3
movie,
or something.
As a Batman
yeah.
movie, as a Batman thing,
Yeah.
I have different opinions than most. But yes, movie.
But yeah, I really enjoy Mask of the Phantasm. Really loved it. So psyched, and I don't think I've watched it again since then.
Yeah.
Or if I have, it was like in high school, so it's been a while. But yeah, it was really, really, really cool to revisit it.
Completely, well, not completely off topic.
Do
Did
it.
we talk about watching Return of the Joker?
We can
did.
fold it into here. We did an episode, Batman
Oh.
Beyond: Return of the Joker, and we paired it with Spider-Verse.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was your recommendation.
Yeah.
Because Batman Beyond is Spider-Man. You look at any of his villains. He
Yeah.
has a Venom. He has a Green Goblin. He has a Shocker.
Not necessarily in that movie.
No,
Yeah,
no,
but yeah.
through the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so much respect for Return of the Joker. Batman Beyond it's okay. I enjoy
Yeah.
it. Aesthetically pleasing, but that movie was just...
I would say like Return of the Joker is to Batman Beyond what Mask of the Phantasm is to
Yeah.
animated series.
Yeah.
In that I like animated series for me is several letter grades above Batman Beyond.
Oh, yes.
And these movies also have that discrepancy, but
Yeah.
for what it's based on.
We'll have to talk about Return of the Joker with Return of Jafar, because they
That's
have
probably-
similar
Yeah.
names.
I think that's a strong enough Venn diagram.
Only 3 letters off, really.
Kate,
All right.
yeah.
Kate, I see you've got.
I got a cookie
you've got a
timer up.
cookie
I'm ready to
timer up.
move.
What's
All right.
about to happen here?
I'm about to summarize Batman Mask of the Phantasm
Whoa.
in 2 minutes
Oh my god.
or less, or who am I kidding,
Or
or
more.
more. So here I go. All right, my 2 minutes have started. This movie takes place in a series of flashbacks and presents, so I'm probably going to mostly go in chronological. Okay, so Bruce Wayne is young. His parents have died. He's like still trying to figure out how to make this vow of like, I will avenge you. And he meets this girl named Andrea. They fall in love. They get engaged, but oh, her dad is like into business practices, but they may be shifty. And she has to move, and she abandons him right after they get engaged because they have to move to Europe. Oh no! Flash forward to the present. Batman doesn't trust anyone, and this like Phantasm character, this like Ghost Shredder kind of guy, is like starting to take off these members of the mob one by one, and it's like, whoa. So they're trying to figure out that. And then the Joker also gets involved because the mob goes to see Joker for help. And he's like, well, it's obviously Batman who's killing off my guys because this is dark figure. And then Joker is like, cool, I'll help. And then he Jokers the mob boss. And he dies. But, it's not Batman who comes. It's this other dark figure. And Joker's like, oh, man, this is not Batman. But
angel
we'll still
of
try. So anyway, but Andrea comes back into town. Oh boy. And so she and Bruce rekindle their relationship. She knows that he's Batman now. That's extra news. But then the Phantasm lures fights with Joker, lures Batman into the World's Fair kind of situation, old abandoned World's Fair. And then, the Phantasm is actually Andrea, avenging the death of her father based on this mob activity that he was in. And Joker, before he became Joker, was in this mob, so he's the last person she has to kill. And she tries, but Batman ends up saving the Joker because he doesn't kill people. But then it turns out, oh no, he and Andrea can never be together, and oh no, now I forgot what happens to Andrea. But they don't end up together, but Joker ends up living. The whole thing blows up. And Batman is
cookies
Batman
are done.
forever. And Andrea goes away. She doesn't die.
She like falls off a cliff, but then you like see the back of her head, and then she walks away.
But yeah, it's a thing throughout the movie that Bruce Wayne can either like have this normal coupled life or
Yeah.
be a superhero, but he can't do both. So he chooses superhero. Also because his former fiance is maybe a little bit insane.
Yeah, but
Like, she's
he
got
is
some
too.
issues.
He's
Which-
a,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they all are.
he's an 8-year-old who's in the body.
You
of a
zoom out
grown-ass
too
man.
far of this, like, people who become superheroes as opposed to, like, Superman. He didn't super have a choice. Like, he can just fly.
He didn't super have a
No,
choice.
not
Super have a
super.
choice.
But it's just like, there was the one scene where, like, Batman rolls into, like, or Mask of the Phantasm, or Batman rolls into, like, someone's office and just, like, breaks through a window, like, okay, now there's a guy in tights in my office, and he's
just
got a
breaking
mask.
into offices. He's
What
spying on his
the-
ex-girlfriend.
yeah, that wasn't comfortable.
I gotta say though, I think they're good together.
Yeah.
Like they obviously care deeply about each other, and they're very interested in each other. They make out all the time.
All the time.
Like, well,
Lot of
Alfred is
sexual energy.
about.
Yeah.
I think they have a thing where they want to get caught by Alfred, which is weird. But you know what? I'm not kink shaming. Good
That's
for
fine.
them.
That's fine.
But like,
But think about
they,
Alfred. Does he really want that? It's like, fucking bullshit. Like, no.
But they both,
Not again.
like, when it comes down to it, like, part of a relationship isn't the little things. Like, the little things are important, but sometimes it's like the big decisions.
I
Like,
mean, all the small things.
yes. But like when a disaster strikes, what do you do? How do you handle it? And they both say, oh, when my parents die, I become a spirit of vengeance. Mm-hmm. Like, they are
do agree on that thing.
one in the
They
same.
do.
But one becomes
If
an
he-
order hero, and
if-
one becomes a chaos hero.
I mean, if he was just like, hey, could you stop killing people? And she was like, yeah, they'd be great together. Andy, you
but
got
she
your
says
hand
no.
up.
Two things. One, the way you describe Joker is my favorite iteration of the Joker is that when people think they can control him, and then like 4 people are suddenly dead in the room, they're like, huh, how'd that happen? It's because you're trying to control chaos.
Yeah.
And you can't. Batman R.I.P. for anyone who would like a really good thing to read. Grant Morrison, crazy ass writer, has the Joker in that sense. There's this secret organization that's trying to kill Batman. They try to employ the Joker, and people die real quick.
Yeah.
I
Two,
love the Joker so much.
what?
The Joker is one of my favorite characters in fiction. Like,
He's the best
Okay.
character in Batman
yes.
for me.
For you.
Sorry, continue, Andy.
So, the Phantasm shows up again in the DC UA, which is the DC animated universe.
Ooh.
Oh.
In an episode of Justice League Unlimited called Epilogue. It's showing like the future of the Justice League between like Batman and Justice League, those TV shows, and Batman Beyond. Someone high up in the government hired the Phantasm to kill Terry McGinnis's parents
Ooh.
in order to start the chain of events again. So by killing parents, they thought that they could make it happen. And create a new Batman.
So they killed his parents. They killed Batman Beyond.
No,
Or they were going to kill Batman Beyond.
Andrea couldn't go through with it.
She was an unsuccessful Mandalorian. She was
It's-
hired as a bounty hunter.
She's an unsuccessful Mandela.
Did she get a baby
effect.
Yoda?
Yoda?
Oh,
Yoda?
my God. We need some more baby Yodas.
Every franchise needs a baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Not an
This coulda
equivalent.
used a baby
It
Yoda.
needs a literal baby Yoda.
Oh.
Hanging out in the corner of the
Yeah.
screen. Just like doing a little dance. So whenever you're bored, you can just
Like
look at it.
like the Land Before Time I watched that had a sign language interpreter in the
Interpreter in
corner,
every scene.
and I didn't know how to turn it off because it was a VHS tape.
Oh my God.
You couldn't turn it
I
off.
couldn't.
It was a VHS tape.
It makes a really
That's
great
not how
story
VHS
now. It's
work.
like, that's weird. Why is there
Yeah,
someone
we
in the
accidentally
corner?
got the ASL version. It's
That's
kind of neat.
amazing,
It's neat
yeah.
that they had one.
Yeah,
Wow.
at a
But it was
Blockbuster.
mislabeled or something.
Yeah.
I will say, Andy and I have different favorite characters in the Batman franchise.
Very much so.
And
Who's
I
your
will
favorite character, Andy?
My villain or just
No,
character?
your favorite character.
Nightwing.
Oh, well, okay. Or Batman.
You meant villain.
No, I didn't. Because we have different opinions about Nolan's Dark Knight. Because you're like, there's not enough Batman. I'm like, oh, I love it because there's no Batman in it. It's just the Joker.
You're using Batman as a lot of different.
Batman.
Say Batman one more time.
Yeah. ¿Hablas español?
Okay,
What-
have you told the Batman
You
story?
mean what iteration of Batman?
No, I don't. Okay, so here was my point. In Mask of the Phantasm, I
Yeah.
like Bruce Wayne and Batman more than I care about him more than I ever have before, after, since. And it is partly because of the Andrea counterbalance to him. That like oh, he's a human. He's not just a robot.
Yeah, there's
Like-
Right.
there's some real character development.
It's
Yeah.
you actually have a Batman and Bruce Wayne balance instead of being
Yeah.
like Bruce Wayne's the mask, Batman's the real person. He's lost himself.
Right.
Yada yada yada.
And I think it's why I identify more, or not identify, but like why I'm more drawn to Joker, because like at least there's something like there's like so many motivations that I can't figure out one, but like Batman, I'm like, all right, I get you. You're not interesting. Joker, I'm like, oh, tell me more. But
Because-
this specific Bruce Wayne, there was more to it.
Yeah, there's definitely more to it. If I had to pick a favorite iteration off the top of my head, it's either the Nolan or the Justice League Batman, because it's just a continuation of Batman the Animated Series. Because Batman villains are essentially just some sort of mental illness writ large. There's a lot of like just interesting villains, maybe not as interesting as other heroes. We don't need to get into that. I have a lot of opinions about this. Two-Face is my favorite just because there's the story called The Long Halloween, which you see the descent of Harvey Dent into Two-Face. That like much like the Dark Knight Nolan movie, there's always that duality to him. Like you have Two-Face Harvey, who's like totally fine, and then he's like something switches and he turns into a rage monster. But just you have this tragic character that's like fighting this the entire time. And it's much more two-dimensional, for lack of a better term. Joker just gets reinvented too often for me to be like, I don't know. But you don't read the comics, so that's its own like
Yeah.
you're seeing a version, and that's like Mark Hamill Joker.
Well, and I
is,
think
is one of my favorites
The
besides
Mark Hamill
Grant
Joker
Morrison.
is so powerful of a character and an interpretation that I'm like, if you can't do something at least as interesting, it's not the Joker. So like Heath Ledger's Joker for me hits that standard of like you're doing
Okay.
something at least as interesting, and it's a totally different fork. But like I feel like I didn't rewatch the Nicholson Batman, but I've seen it in some form since it being introduced to Mark Hamill's, and I'm like, I don't care about this Jack Nicholson Joker. What
I
are
would
you?
rather the Jack Nicholson over Heath Ledger. You can
Well,
come at me.
I
I'm
would
not
like
on
to
any
rewatch
social media.
I would like
so-
to rewatch that soon. I'm
West
interested
Side
in it.
Story snaps. West.
Yeah.
But Andy, and I forgot to mention, Andy's visiting us in New York here, and we've been trying to figure out what to do. If you want to do a hoppity skip dance down those stairs in the Bronx from the Joker, we can stop
The
by
Joaquin
for
Phoenix
ya.
one.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that
we
is actually pretty close.
I've
by.
heard that movie is pretty darn good.
I've heard it's surprisingly okay.
Thoroughly mediocre.
Yes.
As a friend who was trying to get me to read another comic, he's like, "You'll enjoy it. It's thoroughly mediocre."
Speaking of DC movies,
Ooh.
we watched another one.
We did.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think originally we were just gonna pair Mask of the Phantasm and Spider-Verse because we're like, superhero movies done. But
Yeah.
Andy,
Andy is our superhero expert. I've read some comics. And I've watched a lot of like
People
shows.
have. Yeah.
I've seen like a good third of the Marvel movies. But
Sure. We've seen
so
movies
in
that
this
be
household,
9.33.
I am maybe the comics expert.
I would say.
possibly.
Well,
I know a lot of weird things.
Yeah,
I don't
but-
know comics, but I know like superheroes at large.
Yeah,
Like,
you I mean, you have the advantage of a brother who we happily bring on as the comics expert.
just like Andy can probably list the Backstreet Boys faster than you could even now.
Nick.
Nick, Brian, Kevin, AJ, Howie.
Done.
Do you want to know where they all went during their Disney Channel specials? I unfortunately can relay that as well.
I tell you what, I would have forgotten Howie, but I don't think
The
anyone would
Center for the
mind.
Dull and Lame, a basketball court, horseback riding,
Yes.
Central Park. That's it.
and
That's it. You did it.
Nick
Yeah.
and Brian were together.
Yeah, Nick and Brian were
Andy.
together.
And then Kevin was like, "I'm too old for this, so I'm gonna take some me time."
You know,
that's Dick's favorite thing.
Yeah, there is a
We've talked about it before on
What
this
is-
podcast.
What is this documentary again? I'm gonna
This
recount
is
it.
Backstreet Boys in concert on the Disney Channel.
So
They're in New York
we
doing a
watched this
concert, and it's
documentary.
interspersed with like interview outing clips.
This is like a trade. I have Kate watch a wrestling thing, and she has me watch a Backstreet Boys
That's
thing.
how it's gone. Yeah.
And I fall in love with Kevin because he is riding a horse through Central Park, and he's just like very calm, very chill, just like, back in the country we've got grass and hills and trees. And out here you got like trees and grass and buildings.
So it's real different.
It's
Yeah.
It's the dumbest, best observation I've ever heard.
Is he from the country?
He's from Kentucky, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's why he talks like that.
he's
Okay.
amazing. Kevin's
It's
the
great.
best.
We'll
Gold
watch
is
it afterward.
heavy.
We'll call him.
I'm sitting on this plane, and it's real nice. They brought me a snack, and then they around dinner time they brought out some dinner. It's real nice. Kevin, everyone.
So Andy had different ideas of what we should see as a superhero movie.
Yes.
So Andy, you said specifically that Justice League New Frontier would be a good match with Mask of the Phantasm. Can you give us a
Yes.
little bit, because you are going to summarize the plot soon.
Yes.
That's true.
But without giving too much plot, why did you decide to pair these movies?
One, I haven't seen New Frontier in a while.
Sure. Sure.
Two,
Good reason.
I'm also realizing Wonder Woman could have worked, but we're
that
here.
was
Too late
dope.
for that.
Too late for that.
That was dope.
But they're both origin stories in their own regard, but also just very different takes on origin stories. They share a similar time period, sort of, kinda, and it's two very different ways that these people become heroes. Batman is through tragedy. Hal, while you don't see it in the movie, is a little bit of more tragedy. His dad dies in front of his eyes in a plane crash, but it takes it in such a different direction than becoming vengeance and blending in with the shadows. He's a bright new hero that is willing to take on the world.
Hal almost seems
That's
like he's a hero before he gets his powers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, at least from this, he's a test pilot. He's like,
Yeah.
I want to
He's
do this. I want to do this.
He's a veteran
Uh-huh.
that decides, oh, war is the worst.
Thank him.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hal, for your service.
But he ends up
But,
being a
yeah.
pacifist, which is interesting.
In this version.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But so a little background about, I won't go into like the plot details,
But
but
Hal Mitchell.
the Hal Mitchell, yeah. Hal Jordan.
Hal Meacham.
Hal,
Be prepared for Dick to try to mess you up on words that you think you know, and then he says, and you're like, wait, is that
That's
really
not
what
right.
it...
Janie Dwarp.
Misdirect.
So the New Frontier comic came out of a place. I mean, it was written 2003 to 2004 is when it was released. Darwin Cook, may he rest in peace, was a great artist writer combination that's not really seen in comics. You have
Rightist.
the rightist. You don't have a whole lot of writer artist combos that are worth your while. Darwin definitely was, but it was the untold tales of the 50s. So when you get into the quote unquote Silver Age of comics, you have a lot of alien adventures, space adventures, a lot of like mystic, just like kind of funny pages sort of deals. Yes.
What do
Dick.
you mean by Silver Age?
Yeah.
How could I?
good-
How could we like define that?
Yes. 1938 to 1955 was the golden age.
Okay.
So that's when all the superheroes, as we know them, were coming into creation. 56 until early 70s was the Silver Age. So that
Okay.
was the Renaissance, the rebirth.
And that makes sense with space. Like, this
Yes.
is space races.
So
this is
space races. You have a lot of
Apollos.
like Western comics. The comic authority code is coming into effect now because of the McCarthy hearings and people like Frederick Wertham and his book Seduction of the Innocents, which was essentially he's the first guy that were like Batman and Robin are like doing it in the Batcave, and like, do you really want your kids reading all these things? So he is one of the main proprietors of book burnings of comic books, and essentially he is the reason why like Action Comics and all those old books are really expensive now, because there aren't that many copies left.
So basically, the comic book creators were being accused of being commies.
Yeah,
Is that how they were?
Well,
okay.
yeah, and
That's so interesting.
They were being censored. They were saying this is corrupting youth. How could you be doing this? And so that's why we have all these crazy ass stories. If you look at Batman in like the 40s, like he's smashing heads, and sometimes people end up dead. It's not exactly his fault, but like in the 50s, you get like Dad Superman, Dad Batman, that are these fantastic stories that don't make a whole lot of sense, and you don't have a whole lot of narrative. It was just like, it was one shot after one shot. So New Frontier, the idea was telling the untold stories of the 50s, so to speak, in a narrative
that's really cool.
That is
in a narrative that would make sense, and that would talk to those scary kind of cloak and dagger G-men sort of tales. So yeah, that's what it was touted as. When I first read it, I did not appreciate it, and then because I was expecting like a lot of more fighty fists and action, but it's a slow burn, and it's a story of these characters, not just with these characters.
And it's a little bit, I would assume that the comic probably delves into this more. There's more like political and philosophical. Like, it's light in the movie, but I can tell that in the comics, I'm sure it was more of a thrust.
There's a very pointed conversation between Superman and Eisenhower in the comic that Eisenhower's just like,
of course there is.
You're going to do the right thing, right, Superman? He's like, yeah, I wasn't planning on not doing the right thing. He's like, but you're going to do the right thing for America, right? And they have Mount Rushmore behind them. And it's just a very like, okay, like you know that you have an atom bomb in your hand right now. And that being Superman, not the actual atom bomb. And he's just trying to like control and like kind of keep some semblance, because that's always a storyline that people are like, oh, what if he goes bad? Like, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, we can. I am ready to ask like a million questions to get really deep on this, but we need to get.
Yeah, we need to get to the summary.
The summary.
So we both. Is it fair to say, to summarize, that we both saw this for the podcast, and that's it?
Yep.
Yeah.
First time for the podcast. I have seen some of these like DC movies.
Yeah.
The one I saw that I know was like in this kind of style was the Wonder Woman movie. Yep. Which I loved. Highly recommend to everyone.
Animated.
Yes, to be clear, I did not see the Gal Gadot one yet. I've heard it's really good.
Supposed to be good.
It's good. Yep. Of the DC offerings, it's the best.
But the animated movie, I forget.
No Michael Shannon's dying.
I forget who is Wonder Woman, but
Carrie Russell.
Carrie Russell is. Yeah, and Captain Malcolm
choice.
Reynolds is.
Yes.
Boy.
Steve Rogers.
That's what I said.
And
Boy.
Alfred Molina is Ares. Alfred Molina is a fantastic voice actor.
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff, but his switch over to that is really impressive.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's the most comprehensive Wonder Woman story I've seen.
Andy, are you ready for a cookie timer?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Okay.
2 minutes
Justice
on the
League,
clock.
New Frontier, 2 minutes ago.
All right. As I said, untold story of the 50s, but we start off with one of our main characters, Hal Jordan. He is in the Korean War. He has been able to not kill anybody. He's been able to be a hotshot, but we see a very real moment where he ends up killing someone after the war has been declared over. We smash cut to civilian life. We have all these people that are enjoying their life and enjoying a party. But before that, we see this mysterious alien kind of come to Earth, and he has inadvertently killed a scientist and assumed his identity. This is the Martian Manhunter. But we see domestic life in the DC universe as it is right now. The Flash makes his appearance. He shows up to this glitzy party, stops Captain Cold, and is on his way. But as he's stopping Captain Cold, the this man is possessed by something that says like the center won't hold. Like we will rise up, we will attack. What you find out is that there's this prehistoric creature that is coming for blood soon, called the Center. It's making sure that it's aligning all of its pieces. It's seeing all these heroes trying to take them down, and as they're coming up, so these new heroes are coming out of the woodwork. Superman is already established with the U.S. government. Wonder Woman as well. Batman is kind of a question mark, even though he does very much exist. So all these heroes are coming into being, meeting each other, but then the U.S. government also has a big hand in how everyone's forming and what they want and what they don't want. So in failed attempts around, definitely didn't do that.
Wow.
Whoops.
Oh boy.
It's okay.
All right, Andy, we're gonna
It's
let
hard.
you. It's your first time.
It's hard.
Well, it's your
Yeah.
second time.
Nah, it's not
It
true.
is.
But we're gonna let you continue. Keep going.
So the U.S. government is trying to increase their space race. They're trying to make it out to the stars. They don't end up getting there because they have heard that there's life on Mars, but they have a Martian in their midst already. I realize.
You're just like halfway through the movie right
Oh,
now.
boy.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's
the
really
Green
hard.
Lantern gets his Green Lantern ring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
kind of by accident.
kind of by
He
accident.
doesn't know what to do with it.
So through all of this, Hal has kind of been listing. He doesn't know what to do after the war, but he's the main driving point of this movie. That he's this guy who's trying to overcome his fear and overcome his
No, keep going.
his insufficiencies. A Green Lantern ring chooses him, which is this all powerful like magic lamp, so to speak.
Chooses.
It's like the Baby Yoda of the Green Lantern universe.
Sure.
Okay.
So all these divergent plot lines come together when the Center is just like, nah, I've had enough. I'm just gonna like wipe
Just
out all the
starts
humans.
spewing out dinosaurs.
Yeah,
is what
it
it does.
does. It's
It
great.
spews out like hundreds of dinosaurs that start attacking
And
everyone.
then when those dinosaurs die, more dinosaurs pop out
More
of
dinosaurs
them.
pop out.
It's just
like,
a lot of
It's like
dinosaurs.
the volcano dinosaur and How to Train Your Dragon, but like extra.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it produces more dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Dragons.
Yeah.
Soars.
It's like a Hydra, but
Yeah.
of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Separate dinosaurs. So they eventually beat back the Center. They with the Flash, he has this special shrink ray that like makes it unstable. Green Lantern throws it in space, and
But
essentially,
yeah, really it's Green Lantern who
really
kind of
it's Green
saves
Lantern.
the day.
Yeah, he steps into his power, steps into his responsibility, and then essentially we have the start of the Justice League. All these heroes are like, hey. Like, what was that name again? What did you say? The Justice League.
The Justice League. I guess
Huh.
we'll start that. Yeah. I am obsessed with that moment in
Bohemian Rhapsody.
in movies.
Oh.
In movies about like a band or like a group or something where
Even
it's like you guys are like a big group of Avengers. Wait, what'd you say?
What'd you say?
Avengers?
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like some sort of Green Lantern.
So
What?
It is interesting for you to tell that story,
What did I
Andy,
focus
to
on?
me
Yeah.
who like no. To who one hasn't read the comic.
Yeah.
And two doesn't like I had to pause the movie. I'm like, should I know who Hal Jordan is
We
the
did
way
a
that I
couple
know
of pauses, yeah.
that Clark Kent is? And like Andy had a moment of like, yeah, I have to tell you. This is like you would know this going into a Justice League movie if you were a
Yeah.
Justice League fan. So I'm like, oh, okay, he's the Green Lantern. So it's interesting when you say like Hal Jordan's transformation into Green Lantern is the thrust of this story. For me, that's not a thing that I got out of it. Like for me, it was like a side plot almost.
Yeah. I would say
Yeah.
I would say that that's one of the really interesting things about both of these movies. And by the way, I love this movie. Thank you.
It was so good.
This
welcome.
was so fun to
Yeah.
watch. But one of the really interesting things about this and Mask of the Phantasm is that there are origin stories in each movie, and the origin story is not. It's not like the main thrust in the way that I'm used to origin stories
Yeah.
being
Yes.
like, we're following around Hal Jordan as a kid. We're learning about his dad.
Right.
Yeah,
We're
it's not like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, for
yeah, it's
instance.
just
Yeah.
Like
it happens, but it's not the only thing that happens.
What would you say is the main
So
thrust?
for
then? 'Cause
me,
I can
like
agree with that.
the main character of New Frontier is Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
I would, yeah, okay.
To me, like I'm most
Which is
invested
kind of
in
his
his story.
origin,
It is
too.
his origin
It's-
too.
It's like a dual origin.
I guess, I
No.
mean, and maybe if I had known who Hal Jordan was from the beginning, I would have
No.
been paying attention. But also, I will say, this was a Transformers movie problem. There were like 4 characters who looked just like Hal Jordan, like just
Yeah.
like classic
Welcome
white
to the
man
50s,
with
yeah.
a brown crew cut.
Let's just
So, like-
one
like,
has brown hair,
they-
two
Yeah.
have black hair,
Well,
and
but,
then
Yeah,
one
like-
has
they're all
blonde.
army
For
men from the
instance,
50s.
Yeah.
the
so-
character that Martian Manhunter takes on for like probably 50% of the movie, like I couldn't pick out him and Hal Jordan as separate characters in a lineup.
There was not
Yeah.
there was not for the audience. I'll say that was a thing. Is there was not for the audience a clear this character's Martian Manhunter. It
There were
seemed
red
like
eyes?
It seemed like it was red eyes, but
But
like
then
you
Hal
said,
Jordan's eyes were like light brown, so I also
Yeah.
thought that he had red eyes. That
and
confused me for a
the
moment.
scene after we see Martian Manhunter's red eyes,
Yeah.
we see Superman use
You
his
do
heat vision.
red
and you're like,
eyes.
oh,
Like,
Martian
oh.
Manhunter's pretending to be Superman.
Yes,
That was confusing.
no, and I'm I do this sometimes where I'll be like, well, did you read the comic? Because
I did not.
Like,
no, and that's yeah, because in the comic the main threat, like you see Hal from a child,
Yeah.
until he hits this, but like
No, that's
this,
fair.
This movie decided to focus on Jean because it was more of a
And John is the Martian.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Jean Jones.
Yeah.
Martian is very similar to English, I guess.
So is Superman.
It just has
so
more
is
apostrophes.
Kryptonese.
More more Kryptonese, yes,
Mm-hmm.
which
But I think
Yeah.
that was one of the strengths of this movie.
Yeah.
Is I have seen I've seen Spider-Man like 4 times now. Mm-hmm. I know the origin. I've seen Batman over. I've seen this origin story.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep wasting an
Yeah.
entire movie on it.
And I do think that was a strength of Mask of Phantasm.
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
it was a strength of both of these. It's like Mask of Phantasm, if somehow you don't know who Batman is going in, you still get his origin. And in this, like,
Well-
we got Hal Jordan's origin,
yeah.
but we didn't have to waste a bunch of time not flying around and shooting lasers, which is what I'm here for.
There's a lot of superhero.
There was a
action
lot of
from the
superhero
beginning.
stuff,
Yeah,
and there
and
were a
that's-
lot
It was
of
not
other
just
superheroes.
Smallville.
Let me redact. Let me
Ooh.
adjust my previous statement.
Do
That
it.
Hal Jordan he's the linchpin to this story. So he's the
Yeah.
one. His ring falls into place, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and then that triggers everyone
Mm-hmm.
else to be like, "Shit, we could do this
I did-
together."
I know I've already said some Transformers references, and
Sure.
throughout the movie, I'm like, oh, this like center, it's Unicron.
Yeah, it's Unicorn.
I mean,
Yeah.
these are things that I couldn't say like 3 weeks ago because I just recently saw the Transformers the
yeah,
movies.
congrats.
But Hal Jordan is kind of the hot rod, where like I didn't know he was supposed to be important until all of a sudden, like, oh shit, he's saving the day.
Yeah.
Cool, but that's fine.
Which I think worked in this
I think it
movie,
worked.
where it didn't in
and I-
Transformers.
Right.
No,
And I
yeah, this is a good
As a-
version of what Transformers
was trying to
Wanted
do.
to do,
could
yeah.
have done, maybe could not have done, because
Yeah.
Hasbro was a nightmare. But
No, we don't need to get into that.
here's 24 characters that look the same. Use them all.
Use them all.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
also, 12 of them have to die. Enjoy.
But I think that's what makes this is New Frontier has been reprinted, I don't know, 5 or 6 times since it was first made. And I think this is like a distilled superhero story because you have that like that it does the final push so well into superhero-dom that's not like you watched however many people get murdered and you're like, huh, maybe I should do something about this. it's Hal Jordan's transformation is like the key moment.
It puts like a final puzzle piece in place so that
Yeah.
the Justice League can continue, and I think that's what Mask of the Phantasm does too. We've like kind of pre-gamed this conversation talking about it, but for me, it's less of a Batman origin than a Bruce Wayne origin. That like it
Say
gives him
more.
humanizing features of like, oh, he did have another choice besides this like very narrow view of how he's responding to his parents' death. Like he had another option in life, and
Yes,
he like
okay.
repeatedly chose this one in spite of other things. And so
Yeah, he could have
kind of
he could
having
have had a normal life.
yeah.
I mean, as normal as being a billionaire.
And one reason he
can be.
chooses to like kind of like be over the mourning of he chooses Andrea in his early life, and then she moves to Europe without like and breaks up with him in a letter. So that was kind of a piece for him that's like, cool, so now I'm Batman. Like there's nothing really left for
Yeah.
me to
That makes so much more sense from a human level than him being like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take out all crime.
yeah,
It's like,
forever. From
I
the
was-
age of 6 on, this is my
Right.
goal. Like that's,
I was spurned by someone I loved.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, I felt that after breakups. Be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna play this game until like
Yeah.
I'm
It's like-
100% complete with it.
It's like, well, I got
because-
broken up with. I'm going to be the best Mario ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
well,
exactly.
and
That-
so then
that
to
makes more
double
sense.
down
Yeah.
for her to come back and then be like, oh, we are like morally, philosophically different people now. This is not going to work.
Ew.
And then that final bat signal going up and he goes after it is kind of in the way that Hal Jordan puts the last piece into the Justice League puzzle. This puts the last piece into the Batman puzzle where like Bruce Wayne is dead. Gary's dead.
Gary's dead.
Bruce Wayne is dead. It's Batman now.
Wrong with the Batman. Yeah.
So I found it interesting from that perspective where like it wasn't just the you see his parents shot again, you see him being raised, and you see him do the computers.
And especially after Batman Begins, I never need to see the origin again. That was great.
Yeah.
We're done. Like
Yeah.
the Batman origin.
Yeah.
It's done really well in Batman Begins.
Batman Begins is
I
the
thought you
origin.
meant Beyond for a minute. Yeah.
Like I don't
Oh,
ever.
Is
I
the
don't ever-
definitive origin.
That's
No
what I
one
was
needs.
hearing.
No
Yeah,
one needs
yeah.
to retell it again. I
Yeah.
got it. It's
The-
amazing.
Yeah.
The only good thing I can say about Batman v Superman v Roe Wade is
V. Roe, V. Raid, V.
Yeah.
Dredd, V. Scott. Yeah.
is Snyder did a really interesting version of
Sorry, you say Snyder, and it's just a laugh. It just is.
No.
Sorry.
Oh, my laugh is Orphan Fight.
Orphan
Is
Fight.
the name of this movie.
Yeah.
Wait, did you just say Martha?
Is it, what I did? What?
Yeah.
No, your mom's not named Martha too, is
What?
she?
Oh,
I've never
we're
seen
good.
the movie and I know
sorry,
this
come on.
joke. The thing you liked in Orphan Fight was
Orphan Fight the movie was they like the first couple minutes was like bang bang they're dead, but then you have this like really symbolic and metaphorical like Bruce is like watching his parents, but then he gets like raised up by these bats and like kind of takes like this like I'm in a tractor beam sort of pose and you're like, oh, like okay, that's cool, like it's metaphorical, it's like, oh, I'm gonna become the Batman.
yeah.
And then it gets ruined in the next 2 minutes when he's up in a corner and Ben Affleck's trying to be like, I'm hiding. But it's very clear like there's a man up in a corner. And like the white of his eyes are just like, but
It's like a cartoon where the whites of the eyes are still just like bright,
Blink,
even though it's dark.
yeah, he might as well have gone blink, blink,
Andy,
blink.
do you think releasing the Snyder Cut would help?
I think it would be interesting if we could see it.
I think it would be.
Yeah, because the parts of Justice League that my friends like are clearly the Joss Whedon moments
I remember really liking Zack Snyder very briefly.
for 300.
No,
Sucker
like I
Punch?
like 300. Dawn of the Dead.
Oh,
Dawn of the Dead was really cool. It
Yeah.
had a Richard Cheese song. It had his version
Okay.
of Down with the Sickness.
excellent.
It was just really fun, really cool.
I don't.
300, and I'm gonna be honest. I understand, but I like Watchmen.
Huh?
I like Watchmen.
the first.
Yeah, I
the-
think
the
it. I
movie.
think it does it well.
I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed Sucker Punch. Like I don't know what people were expecting.
Yes,
But, like-
Sucker Punch has some problems, but
Sure,
it was fun to watch.
It's yeah. But like Snyder's not a bad director. He's just bad at doing in-depth content.
Snyder would be an amazing cinematographer or director of photography.
Yes.
He just maybe shouldn't direct.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Gavel, gavel, gavel.
So- Okay,
Sorry,
so in
Kate.
terms of, I'm thinking, so yeah, this was all me with eyes glazed over. So I was thinking about other things.
She was playing with Detective Pikachu.
Let
on
me
the
key you,
couch.
yeah, but Detective Pikachu's over
That's
here
and
too.
that's okay.
The world's greatest detective. Screw you, Batman. It's
Yeah.
Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu. Why
So-
don't you see his dad in the pictures? Well,
Well, we're waiting to show you that till the end. So Batman Mask of the Phantasm is an original concept
Yes.
born out of Batman the Animated Series.
yes, and Bruce Timm and Paul Dini.
Sure, these are people who worked on the animated series.
They are responsible for a lot
Whereas
of the
Justice
90s.
League is born out of the full comic. Not Justice, sorry, New Frontier
the movie
is
we
born out
watched.
of the comic.
Yes.
It's not born out of, there is a Justice League TV show, but this is unrelated in terms of like the style. The characters don't look the same.
It's
not a continuation of plot
Yes,
from this.
I was going to get too technical. It is a 1-to-1. Like, there's a comic called New Frontier.
Yeah.
They translated the best they could.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's no Mask of the Phantasm comic.
Right.
That is the question.
So
yes.
I guess Andy and Dick, you have relations to this too. Like, do you see
Sure.
elements in the movie that tell you, oh, this is based on TV versus this is comic? And that in knowing that Batman the Animated Series is kind of just highly revered in superhero fandom, like it might as well kind of be a comic because it is so highly revered as like canonical material.
So I'm critical of superhero things when I want to be, but I'm also
When I want to be.
And I can also just like turn my brain off and be like, that was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there are problems with it, but like Batman the Animated Series like is its own thing.
Yeah.
So like when I see it, I think I filter out any sort of like comic book reference. The only thing that I can think of is that like his first Batman outfit when he like first suits up is relatively close to the first Batman outfit, but even then it's just a bigger bat symbol without the yellow circle around it.
Because you do see in Mask of Phantasm, because it takes place over an amount
several
of time,
years,
you
yeah.
see him like kind of come up with
Right.
the suit over
He
time.
puts
Like
on
he's
a
first in
sweater
a
and a
ski
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then-
he's just like a guy with kind of a ski mask on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
And his
I'm going
whole
to
thing
beat
is
up
like,
5 armed
Oh, they're
thugs.
not afraid of me. I need to change my suit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when animated series was first created, it was still the silly bat symbol with the yellow circle. But like for me, that is my Batman. Like
Yeah.
if there's not a blue interior to the cape, I'm like, that's not right.
Well, the same
That's-
thing when the Batman started talking in New Frontier. I'm like, who took over? Like, who possessed Batman? That's
Well,
not Kevin Conroy.
no, and
I don't know
that's-
what I'm
There's
hearing.
been like 6 different Batman.
And of course there are, right?
Yeah, of course. Kevin can't be available for everything, but to, for lack of a better term, layperson, to like you watch it, you understand that there's like, oh, like this is a very classic Batman voice. Hearing that is incredibly jarring.
Yeah.
And
I'm not
especially,
saying
I
it's
think
not
for
for
an
me.
animated, like I can
Yes.
see the difference between like Michael Keaton's face and George Clooney's
It's
face.
like, oh,
but
it's
like,
another person.
and even though this bat costume is different and it's more like the original, like was it 38 or something? Like
it's just like
it's
the
very
first-
pointy
the
eared
first
and
one
round
is-
face.
first costume
39.
is really cool.
Like-
It's like
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
animated series.
They
I'm
should have
used to
kept
like
with that
squares and
one.
rectangles, and
Yes.
this is circles and triangles. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
First, but
and just like the regular gloves and not like the
yeah, but at the
gauntlet.
same time,
Yeah.
this is 2D. There's black and gray. It should be Kevin Conroy. Like,
Right.
there's
Even-
messes
even in
with
the
my
Arkham
brain.
games that like are not anywhere close to the animated series.
They're not very good games. Sorry.
But
go ahead.
it's Conroy and Hamill, right?
I just
Oh.
coughed.
No.
I just coughed.
We'll talk about that later.
We will.
Orphan fight.
Yes.
Not good
Wait,
games
what?
story
No, you're not.
wise.
No one's orphans here.
Or combat wise.
Anyway, Kevin Conroy's done a lot of Batman voices. He doesn't in this. The Batman in New Frontier is fine, but when you're saying like archetypal, like this is the default Batman in my brain.
You expect to hear.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, so
Kevin.
that was another point where it was like, oh, Martian Manhunter's pretending to be Batman because it's not Kevin Conroy's voice.
Yeah.
So it must
Clearly
be
it
someone
must-
pretending
yeah.
to be
Yeah.
Batman.
And
I
I've seen
got
it for
red
the first
herringed into
time.
thinking that like 8 different characters were Martian Manhunter, including that gorilla. At one point, a gorilla shows up, right? It's like twice the size of a normal gorilla. It has like a collar, and the Flash is hunting
And
him.
it has like an Iron Man chest piece.
I don't know enough about DC to know what's happening. So the Flash is fighting him. He punches the Iron Man part of him, and then his head explodes. and then like government guys come in, they net the Flash, then the Flash disappears, and I just had to pause because
we pause
and like 16 different things happen. I don't know what I should be thinking is okay and what is not okay.
And Kate, you looked at me, or you were just like, "Who is that?" And I say, "Gorilla Grodd," and then you start saying, "Dick, you're just making that up."
And then I, without knowing this, said like, "Yeah, no, that's Gorilla Grodd."
Gorilla Grodd,
and
and
he's from the Gorilla City.
Like I would have put $100 on Dick making up that name out
I'll buy
of
you
nothing.
100 George Michaels. You can teach the Gorilla Grodd.
I would
Gorilla
make
Grodd.
up that name. That's a great name.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what usually happens when he punches Gorilla Grodd in the Iron Man? Not that.
Not
was
a,
the
not
answer.
A ejection of his head.
So after a couple of like pauses and asked questions, our question, instead of "Who is that?" became, "Is it important that I know who that is?"
Yeah.
That
To
was
which
a
Andy's
lot.
like, "Well, let me tell you who those are." And no, it's not important that you know.
So, and I think like Mask of the Phantasm, it is more limited in scope of like named characters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
no.
so I feel
So
like
it's
Mask of the
very
Phantasm, I don't know this for sure because I've lived with Batman my whole life. Like I think you could pick up Mask of the Phantasm not knowing much about Batman.
Oh yeah. No.
And
so-
Justice League or New Frontier I think is the same, but I do think that you're more confused if you don't have a base knowledge of all of the Justice
I think it would
Leaguers.
help to have at least a baseline knowledge.
Like-
Like I think I did okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
There were still a couple
It's-
moments where I was like,
Because the thing is, like, I know the Justice League heroes. I know their names. I know Batman and Superman really well, but I don't know anyone's villains besides Batman and Superman. So a
Yeah.
gorilla shows up, and I'm like, is that Optimus Prime?
Well,
or
like,
a guy
that's-
comes shooting ice, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Mr.
Mr.
Freeze," and
Oh.
it's like, "No,
no,
Captain
it's Captain
Cold,
Cold.
excuse me.
Captain
Clearly.
Cold. Don't be a fool."
that is true. It's a Justice League movie, so the Justice League characters, especially from like the 50s, during the opening sequence, there were even more heroes, and because the comic itself is really dense, you had like the first like half of the first
Yeah.
issue was just like 3 minutes, let's do this. So yeah, I was noticing that as well. I'm like, this doesn't stand alone really well. It's a great, like, you get to see there's something about animation and seeing a comic come to life that's really special and really exciting. So for someone who's like read it, you're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But I will say that it was still like, it wasn't for me like Transformers where I'm like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? And I don't care about what's happening. Like,
Right.
it was like, who's that?
It's Transformers.
But even if I don't know, like, that like dinosaur fight scene was awesome.
Kate, would
even
you-
when like Green Arrow and that red and white guy comes out, I'm like, I don't know who these are, but this
Adam
scene
Strange,
looks objectively cool.
Kate, did you learn about any new or any comic book characters you didn't really know about that
Well-
now you care about?
Gorilla Grodd,
Yes, obviously.
and his Iron Man.
and his Iron Man chest
Uh-huh.
button. I mean, I'd say Martian Manhunter, the Flash. Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris is a great Flash. I think that's
Yeah.
part of it.
yeah.
But it seemed like his scenes were cool.
Yes.
And I guess because his only superpower is running fast, I'm like, well, that's all he could do. No, he could do a scavenger hunt around Las Vegas for 6
Like,
bombs.
instantly.
That's a neat
Yeah.
He can
use
he
of
can-
Flash.
Right, and that's
And
the-
his fight scenes were sweet.
His
Yeah.
Like
fight
he only
scenes are
had
really
a couple
cool.
of
He
them,
was
but
animated really well. They did a good job of mixing the fast motion versus like what Flash's perspective would be, which is everyone else's in slow motion.
and like
Yes.
they, had
Those cuts
they
were
did
cool.
a really good job of making that slow motion happen.
Yeah.
Which like in animation, that seems like a real. I mean, we've seen The Lion King. We know slow motion is a challenge.
No, I was thinking of another great use of
Ooh.
this, the We Bear Bears episode, where they give, where they all take that like caffeinated 5-hour energy.
Oh yeah, and
And
is
so
it
like
Grizz
everything around them happens
that
in
ends
slow
up?
motion.
Yeah, he's just going around.
It's great.
I will say that is how they did it in the movie is what makes a good Flash run in the comics,
Hmm.
is because you like, yeah, he can run fast and you can do cool things with it, but like it's all about the story with the Flash. So it's like, yeah, he can run real fast, but they've broken it down that's like it's still happening in real time for him. So like that was hours to him
Yeah.
as he's running, and it takes 90 seconds.
Yeah.
But he's
To him. Okay, that's
yeah,
interesting.
it's 90 seconds to us, but
It's
to
like
him
a
it's
space
like
light year thing. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Is that something he can like turn on and off, like bullet time?
no,
Oh.
which is a really so.
Oh my
when-
God. How does he have a relationship?
Very carefully.
Oh my God.
There are very interesting moments in the Flash comics where you can either make it real silly and he has a hyper metabolism, so he has to eat all the time, and just you have food jokes.
It's like, hey, Michael Phelps ate a lot of food.
I
and
mean-
he was not running as fast as the Flash. Also, he was a swimmer.
Yes. It was
So
all
weird to be
it's all
Guy.
the marijuana that he was smoking as
Yeah.
well that made him
Why, you get the
hungry.
munchies.
Yeah. But it's when it's done well, it's just like he has a lot of time to think about things.
Oh.
It's also really
Oh,
interesting out
That's
for
a curse.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
There's a key moment. There've been many different Flashes. One's named Wally West. He is my favorite, and we'll leave it at that. But it's an interesting way to like have the writer talk about what they want to talk about, because so I don't know why he was talking about it. He's like, I've like made up my mind about politics, about like what like the world needs to do about all this, and like that took me 3 minutes to decide. So like I've like quote unquote solved this, so I can then focus on like helping people. So like I've made up my mind about these things, but it's really interesting to see like when the Flash is like panic walking or like anxious waiting for something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like you see him like flip through like War and Peace and like all that,
Yeah.
and like the clock moves like 1 minute. And you're like, this is torture.
Torture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like sitting through a video game tutorial where it's like, I just want to
I
do
just
something.
want to do this. Yeah. So the TLDR is that they did that really well in this movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Andy, because I'm not like super in the comic world.
Super good one.
Thank you.
Super.
Every time you're like,
Love.
my favorite is Wally West, and I'll leave it at that. I'm like, cool. This is probably just like a fan declaration, but also people might be coming. People might be going to war against our podcast because Andy has just dropped
Sure.
some crazy bomb.
So the 50s, as you mentioned before, Kate, you couldn't tell who was John Jones. The 50s personalities of these characters were
Yeah.
really bland, and it was just like what I said, like it's a blonde, a brunette, someone with black hair,
All
someone
these
with
white
red
guys
hair.
with crew cuts. Like,
Yeah, that were exactly the same. And like comic historians have said this as well in documentaries.
Yeah.
That it's just like they don't have personalities. So in this movie, Barry Allen has a personality. Historically, he does not. He is Barry is just like black and white. This is good. This is bad. This is what I believe, and you shouldn't.
Which is
like,
traditionally more of a DC thing.
yes.
We think of superheroes with all this pathos, but really we're kind of thinking of Marvel and then the impacts of Marvel in terms of the two big studios. Oh no, now I've just caused a whole kind
Yeah,
of
no.
started a whole
You're
thing.
sorry.
You're
Individual internal pathos.
you're right.
As
On
you
a-
were saying that, I saw Andy's face start to go.
Andy went like galaxy brain. Like,
like-
Yeah.
no.
From an outside perspective, I
Yeah.
realize that when I read DC Comics, I'm thinking about how I can internalize this and whatnot.
Sure.
But yeah, Spider-Man has much more dialogue about good
the
and
gray
bad.
and the gray area
than-
is discussed
yes.
more so than at least than 40s and 50s
well,
DC.
yeah, 60s Marvel really the two
Because
companies
Marvel
push and
comes
pull.
into play later too.
Yeah.
we're just the
Right, Marvel was
Society is
Marvel
in a
was in the
different place.
60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff was then.
and it's true that all of Flash is Stan Lee.
That's what
right?
we've seen, right?
All
Flash
of Flash.
Yeah,
is-
all of Flash is Stan Lee,
Okay.
written and drawn.
Friends, we have to tell you.
To explain this to our audience, we have. Okay, so
we have a favorite-
This is new to me. This
We
is
have
new
a
to me.
favorite television art auctioneer.
You've probably seen, like, I had a favorite television salesman, right? Like you, like,
Sure.
what, the
it's late at night. You watch
QVCs or
QVC,
whatever.
you watch
Right.
Public Access.
There's a
some
local-
dude selling
a
sports
local
cards.
dude.
He's great. But Kate and Andy introduced me to this guy, and he is
His name is
everything.
Barry Chappell.
And the fine art
He's-
showcase.
He's a character.
He's a lovable fool. Do we want to use our analogy?
What is our analogy?
I will use it.
Okay.
He's like Donald Trump in an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Where Trump, instead of being evil and killing people, is kind of a dope that sells fine art but
On
doesn't
TV.
know
But-
anything about it.
But fine art in a motel or a hotel that you stay
Yeah.
at.
Oh, man.
That's the art on the
He
wall.
sells
Yeah.
hotel art.
He sells
Yeah.
hotel art, and there was he's been off the quote unquote off the air. I'm sure he's still
No one's
selling
been able to
things.
find him for like 2 years.
we will link. They were live streaming for like 12 episodes and
Yeah.
they're still on YouTube. We
Yeah.
will link them.
We discovered this man is out of Southern California. He's not even a local here. We just found him
Right.
on like
'Cause you
a
found-
digital
you watched him
channel
in
in
Chicago,
Illinois.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
we-
don't know how.
He's so incompetent. He says wrong things about art. He values it at weird numbers. He has conversations with other people in the studio because no one buys his stuff.
Well, yeah,
He almost
and-
breaks glass.
and
So
no
he
one
had
is
this
mic'd
segment
either.
where he's selling these like
Yeah.
printings, I guess, of Marvel characters.
So Kate introduced me to this.
Yeah.
And we're watching it. And we get 20 minutes in and he brings out like a poster of the Fantastic Four, like an issue of
No,
the
of the
Fantastic
Human
Four.
Torch.
Is an issue of the
There-
Human
there's
Torch.
a
It's-
couple different ones.
It's like a cover art is different than like the interior art.
Sure.
So it's just
Yeah.
like a giant like
It's a poster
Fantastic
of
Four.
the Human Torch.
of the Human Torch.
it's
Duh.
a red guy on
Yeah.
fire.
And
Yep.
he's like, this is the Flash.
He keeps saying it's a Flash.
And then he says, like, it's signed by Stan Lee. Everything on
This
this
is false.
thing is
This
Stan
is a
Lee.
Stan Lee original.
And look, I am not a comic book expert,
neither am I.
but I know that Stan Lee did not draw
We
Ultimate
both
Fantastic
know that
Four.
Stan Lee doesn't draw things.
He does not.
Not for anyone's
Not
not
for-
for any public consumer.
Yes. and for those of you in the not like professional art world, but maybe support a Patreon, supporting the original artist is incredibly important.
Right.
People like Barry Chappell are the problem because he's just like, yeah,
Scrumping you.
he's scrumping you, which is
Yeah.
the past tense of scammed.
The
But
original
he's-
artist of the
Yeah.
Ultimate
Flash.
Fantastic
Of
Flash.
the Fantastic Flash
Stan
4.
Lee.
Stan Lee.
Yeah. So
The Flash
that
The
was
Fantastic
artist was
Four.
who on that one?
Adam Kubert.
You
They-
guys figured
Yeah,
it
it
out
was one of the
together. You were like texting.
Yeah.
It was
one
whichever
of the
Kubert.
Kuberts. Jim Chung was another one. If you're interested in really great comic book art, Jim Chung, Cheung.
I will say, in regards to Stan Lee and art, I highly advise everyone just look up. Oh my God, it's Stan Lee, Eric Larson, and maybe Todd McFarlane. There's just a video.
Rob Liefeld.
Liefeld, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's just a video where like these dudes are drawing this character and Stan Lee is making fun of it the whole time.
Yeah.
He's like,
That's-
where's his leg going? Like,
Rest in peace, Stan. You were a
Nut.
a master. Yeah,
He
you
probably
were a
would have
nut.
gotten along well with Barry Chappell. To be
He would.
To be honest,
He would have been trolling him the entire time.
it would have
Yeah.
been great.
That's what
yeah,
Stan did.
Stan Lee
Anyway,
was surprisingly smart.
The
Yeah.
Flash nor that painting was an original Stan Lee.
Correct.
yeah. Yeah.
All in, all said, sold.
That was to say Wally West versus Barry Allen.
Oh, this is gonna be an episode, y'all.
Barry, not Barry Chappell, Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a personality. Wally West was Kid Flash. So like the whole idea with comics is that the
The apprentice becomes the master.
exactly yeah.
Ooh.
There's always two Sith.
I'm glad that my
There's-
guess of what you were going to say was anywhere close to what
Yeah,
you were going to
Because
say.
otherwise you're gonna get that look like
Yeah. No, Kate. That's wrong.
So that was the first time that Wally, who was Kid Flash, became the real Flash. And like that was the first time it happened in the late 80s. And he became his own hero and a very human hero at that. So he failed. He was a giant asshole for the first like 60 some odd issues. And then there's this really cool turning point. That's all to say, like, Wally is a very human character and a very relatable character.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, you can fight me on Barry versus Wally, but
I might.
yeah.
I
Barry
don't know what
Chappell
I'd be
should be
fighting over.
Barry Chappell wins everything.
So let's.
He's like the
So-
Mr. Magoo of superheroes.
I do want to mention before
Okay.
we move to our
Yeah.
like wrap up segment. I thought there might be more to talk about this, but I'm just going to gush on Mask of the Phantasm.
do it.
Yeah.
Both of these series take place in the 50s. New Frontier uses it more as like a here's how wars
The 19
affected
Art Deco.
things.
Yeah.
And then like JFK appears at the end, and it's weird.
Well,
But
it's not because it's his whole speech is about the new frontier.
It's
and
is in the
series.
It's weird that he's there.
but it like
wasn't
kind of sounds like
necessary.
the mayor of Springfield.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's not
Quimby.
actually JFK, so you're just kind of like, oh, this is a.
Is this Dan Castellaneta?
I understand.
Is
this
I
also-
understand what
Kane?
it's supposed to be.
It's also really weird because in a
world.
movie that the whole time was like, yo, I don't know if America has our best interests at heart. It ends with like, yay,
America has our best
America.
interests at heart.
JFK was not a great president.
Yeah, well, he helped us lose the space race.
But
Yeah.
there were specific 50s references in Mask of the Phantasm, specifically the abandoned World's Fair.
Yes.
That's
I just-
they don't say it in so many words,
Yeah.
but it is supposed to be the relics of basically the Walt Disney World Fair.
I mean, the
Of New
the
York,
New
the-
York World's Fair,
Yeah.
where Walt Disney debuted
A bunch of
much
rides.
of his things. I think
Yeah.
Small World,
Carousel of
Carousel of
Progress.
Progress.
Lincoln, I think, was the previous.
Lincoln was previous,
Fair, but-
and like the with Statue of the Four Winds, and
Yeah.
and
it's-
thank you for bringing this up because I just want to.
And we've been, if you've been on 30 Days of Plus, hashtag 30 Days of Plus, PLUS,
Yeesh.
you've noted that we've watched the Imagineering story, and there's
Yes.
a whole
and we've been
thing
watching
on the
Defunct Land.
Defunctlands.
Talk about it's like a YouTube series. They're talking about it's perfect with the Imagineering
Yeah, it
on the
is.
Disney Plus because that starts with Walt making Disneyland,
Mm-hmm.
and Kevin Perjurer is like, cool. Here's when the first Ferris wheel happened.
Yeah.
Also, Walt's like dad was
Walt was
there.
2 years old nearby.
Walt was 2 years
Like,
old and he went on it. And here's when
and
this
here's
happened.
this
and
World
is,
Fair, and Walt was
so-
there, and there's like 14 ideas that would go into Disneyland,
and
Disney World.
these world fairs,
Yeah.
these world fairs are so fascinating. But also, when you get to the World's Fair grounds in Mask of the Phantasm,
Mm-hmm.
you realize, oh, these animators are fans of it too,
Yeah.
because there is a like
It's a
great.
very-
there's like a kind of great
it's
big
a
beautiful
great big beautiful tomorrow small world
spaceship
mashup
Earth
song.
small world.
Because there's a scene when it's actually happening. There's a flashback scene
Yeah.
when it's like in its grandeur.
Oh yeah, and you see the Batmobile, but it's like all
Yep.
hot
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
oh,
He's
that
He's
looks
just
like, a cool car.
What was that again? The
Ba-
Batmobile.
the Batmobile.
Say that again.
It was. Yeah, we need a new hit song. And then
Are we
later
the,
Joker.
Are we the champions? No, the champions. Sorry.
But later Joker is like living in what is essentially Carousel of
And I
Progress.
love that that's not explained.
He's got a
I
robot
love
wife,
it.
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, "This
He's-
is my life
he's
now."
cutting salami
And
with
so
her.
like
Breaks off
the
a piece of
theme
the
comes
cheek.
back again, but it's like a little bit weirded out
It's
and like
so great.
weird tape record thing.
And it's a
it's
a
so good.
wonderful thing of Joker. Just like, it's like, wait, what? He lives here?
And these are the
What?
so I remember two things. Spoiler: the Phantasm is Andrea, and I remember that scene where Joker has a conversation with the non-sentient robot wife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like-
pulls off a piece of her cheek.
Yeah.
that is one of my favorite scenes. in the
I love
movie.
that Joker is not the main villain in this story.
Yeah.
But he just gets to do all the best Joker things.
Yeah.
The best Joker is Homer Simpson B plot.
Oh.
Kate always
Nice.
tells me, she says the best Homer is B plot Homer.
Yes.
No, the best Joker is B-plot Joker.
Yeah.
That is
when,
absolutely
when he's
correct.
in the background with no adult supervision, oh my god, like that is my favorite because that's not my type of villain to root for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flash villains if you want.
So that's
Some high suggestions.
Gorilla with the Iron Man.
Gorilla
and
Iron
Captain
Man.
Cold is Flash.
Yeah, there were two Flash villains.
Yeah.
The Jeff Johns run, Geoff Johns of the Flash.
Geoff?
Highly suggest 10 out of 10.
What about the dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs are actually a 1950s subplot.
Can I?
Of who?
Dinosaur Island. It
Yeah.
was just
Just
an
of all of them.
island of dinosaurs.
It's a thing.
Also the plot of Jurassic Park.
Well,
Dinosaur
yes.
Island.
Can I bring up an unrelated comic thing that is one of my favorite things that has happened in comics that I've seen?
Yes.
Sure.
It's Spider-Man, where he is fighting maybe Sauron. He's like fighting a villain.
Yeah.
And
that's a pterodactyl-sized man.
Yeah, and Spider-Man is
Oh,
like,
that's what you were referencing.
yeah,
I thought it was the
I know.
Mordor.
They didn't
I
do.
got
They
confused.
did. They didn't do a good job of naming Sauron.
Continue. Sorry.
Spider-Man is like,
Sauron.
you are a
Spider-Man.
brilliant genius scientist. You could be curing cancer. And he says back, but I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
oh,
That's pretty great.
that you don't get that anywhere but comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't. You just don't.
And fun fact, Mask of the Phantasm is where Iron Man 2 takes place. There's a World's Fair.
A dilapidated World's Fair.
Yeah.
Oh,
great.
yeah.
That's the Iron Man I
Okay,
haven't seen.
I've
I've
told
seen
you,
1
you-
and 3,
you've gotta
kind of by
s-
accident.
You've got to see
will-
2 for the World's Fair stuff. It's awesome.
You will
Okay.
love to.
And
The
Sam
Mickey
Rockwell.
Rourke seems not fun.
Who cares about Mickey Rourke? Sam Rockwell's in
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Sam
that is
Rockwell's
actually,
in it. Yeah, Mickey.
So I need to see 2.
Sam Rockwell has been
I
a
liked 3.
genius since
We saw it when The
Teenage
Great
Mutant Ninja
Gatsby
Turtles.
was sold out.
Um,
I like the fake out of, the Mandalorian. That's what he was called. It was.
no.
There was no baby Yoda. What was he
the
called?
Mandarin.
What?
The Mandarin. Oh, I've been thinking
You
it's
said
the
that
other
with
one.
such conviction
I had
that I
a lot
almost
of
believed
conviction.
you.
Well, hey, unless
I was so confused when that title of Star Wars came out. I'm like, is this about the villain in the 3rd Iron Man? I was wrong this whole time.
Wow.
This
Okay.
is all making sense
Okay.
for me. It
So
might be time.
Unless there is anything else that we specifically need to cover, I think it's time to start getting into the final cut.
The final cut.
Where we will discuss
It's
things
the
more.
final
Andy-
cut down.
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
But where did
Andy,
the lighter fluid come from?
We have to thank you.
Yeah.
Because this
welcome.
first segment of the final cut actually was born out of the other episode that you've been on so far.
Is that true?
It is. Last time Andy was on the show, we did Incredibles and Hercules.
This is true.
And Andy shouted out a scene in The Incredibles where Dash does this run. And
Yeah.
we're like, this was so fun.
I go cold with adrenaline every
Yeah.
time I see that.
And this was so fun to hear Andy speak about this scene that just
Yeah.
gives him goosebumps. And we had recently before that recorded an episode where we just trashed Titan AE for an
Because it
hour.
deserved it.
There were 2 other movies. We just trashed Titan AE for an hour.
So we thought it was important to, like, even when we're watching bad movies, shout out some positivity, but when we're watching good movies too, like, just like say, hey, here's something that
And
that
by the
we
way,
especially loved.
Most of the movies we watch are Disney.
Oh man, but not always.
Most of the movies we watch are musicals.
But not always.
Most of the movies we watch are good.
But not always.
We should have said that an hour and 29 minutes ago.
That's
Sorry,
part of
everyone.
the intro.
Yeah.
Normally, but we've been doing so much.
You can
30
just
Days of
scramble it for
Plus.
yourself.
Yeah. Just,
Anyway.
just remember it.
Speaking of movies that are not or good, I liked both these movies a lot.
Yes.
So scene shoutouts will be extra fun
So
for these.
scene shoutouts. Should we go first and let Andy have some time to think because
So,
he didn't know he was about
we're
to do
gonna
this?
go
I
one-
think I understand. But
We're going to
please
go one
ahead.
movie at a time, shout
Yeah.
out a specific scene that gets you.
Yeah, that was like either like emotional or fun or just well drawn.
So let's
or
start with
something.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Okay.
Dick, are you ready?
Yeah,
I
I
am.
actually.
Okay.
Look, I got some notes.
Oh, look at you. Dog notes?
What?
Bat notes.
Bat notes. Yeah. If we didn't talk about the World's Fair already, I would have talked about that. But for me, there's a scene in Mask of the Phantasm where Batman is at his parents' grave, and he's just like, and he's like,
Parents are dead.
well, yeah, but he's like, has he proposed to?
I don't know where you are in the movie. Say more.
So Batman, like at some point has proposed to the
Batman or Bruce?
Bruce. Bruce.
Right.
Okay.
Bruce has proposed.
No, because
to,
he's there at 2. Like he's there
Yeah.
as
that's
Batam.
that's
Yeah.
fair. So Bruce has proposed. He's like, oh man, I can live a normal life, and he's at this like decision point, and he's at the grave, and he's just like kind of screaming at his parents. He's like, let me go. Is it enough? When will it be enough? Like, and it was just really effective for me seeing Bruce Wayne, like we always see his villains as like Andy said earlier,
Some
like
sort of mental health disorder.
yeah, his villains are all some sort of mental health disorder, like magnified. And it was really good to see Bruce Wayne sort of represented this way, like not being able to let go, because obviously he can't let go. But like instead of treating it as like, yeah, well, he's a hero, like yeah, like he's troubled.
Yeah.
And that I think to me gave me more insight into Bruce Wayne, the person, that I don't get from a lot of other Batman stuff.
Dick, you stole my scene shout out.
Boom!
So I'm going to add one more detail, but I'm going to choose another scene.
Okay.
And I don't think it's executed like at a 100%. I think
Sure.
it's executed at an 85, but I like the idea. He is shouting these things at the grave, and then you get a shot of the grave and like lightning flashes at it. So it's kind of meant to be like the parents are talking back.
Like responding almost.
Or at least his like delusion of his parents is talking back.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool thing. And again, like executed at maybe an 85.
His delusion of his parents.
But it's neat for Batman the Animated Series. It
Yeah.
like levels up
It
what
was- it
that
was
usually is.
pretty strong, yeah.
In terms of like symbolism in it. Okay, so now I need to think of a different scene. Okay, it's a small thing.
Yeah.
But I think this movie did a good job. We were talking earlier in our pre-conversation about whether this movie does a good job foreshadowing Andrea as the Phantasm.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
And again, I'm going to say like an 85, maybe a 75.
Yeah.
But I think it is there. And I think one of the scenes that is fun is... there's a couple different things. Phantasm kills one of the mobsters in a graveyard. The next scene is the same time frame. Bruce Wayne arrives at the graveyard, and then he sees that Andrea is talking to her mom again at the grave. And it's like, oh, if I know that Andrea and the Phantasm are the same, they're both in this graveyard at the same time. That checks out in terms of like, Andy, it's fine.
I'll accept. I'll
The
allow it.
other scene that I think is fun is that Batman breaks into Andrea's apartment maybe to look for her or to
Snoop through her
something.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like
Bruce needs
toward
better
the end,
boundaries.
and the phone rings, and he answers it, which is a dumb idea, but he answers it, and it's Joker thinking that he's talking to Andrea. And if you, the audience, don't know yet, it can go both ways, because he's saying like, hey, Toots, like, I thought it would be you, like, he is revealing that the Joker has already figured out that Andrea is the Phantasm on that phone call.
That's neat.
And it's neat because Batman doesn't realize it, and it doesn't 100% telegraph it to the audience.
Yeah.
But if you already know the twist, you're like, oh, cool, Joker figured it out before Batman. And as someone who loves Joker, that was really fun
Nice.
for me.
Good
I like that
scenes.
scene a lot because, like, it's literally the next scene that you as the audience find out it's Andrea, but it's Joker's a step ahead of you, so it's like a neat meta kind of, you are
Yeah,
Batman,
right,
like
it can
Joker
be.
is a step ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Or as you said one time, we were watching some episode of the animated series, and we're like, no, like Batman has to be his villains in order to understand what they're doing. Yeah. I'm sorry. Were you done with your?
I am done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andy, what you got?
Um.
That's
I'm
the
gonna-
hard thing
I'm-
about three people is
Yeah,
like we
you
get
got
two,
less
we get two
scenes to
scenes.
choose
Well,
yeah.
no, I'm gonna reach into.
Ooh.
I'm gonna do two things real quick.
Great.
Yeah.
So, obviously, one is comics related. The fact that Joker or Jack Napier, if that's his real name,
They don't say that name in this movie, but
no,
he is seen as a human.
yes, he is seen as a human.
Yeah.
I like that he's been there since the beginning. There's this great Scott Snyder, not Zack Snyder, Scott Snyder.
Different name.
Wrote this really great Batman run, and there's this I think it's called Batman Endgame, I think is the collection where
Thanos is... Oh.
yeah Joker's collected all of the Bat-Infinity Stones.
Batfinities.
Batfinity Stones, excuse me. No, Joker is like gaslighting all of like the Bat family, so that's like Batman and Nightwing and Batgirl and Jim Gordon, and he's like photoshopped himself into all these things.
Like a reverse Marty McFly.
Yeah, it turns into a horror comic because you're like, oh my god, he's been here since like the birth of like Jim Gordon's kids.
Oh
I'm
my
getting
God.
goosebumps just
Yeah,
you hear
it
talking
is-
about this.
I still remember I was reading it like before I went to bed. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna sleep well tonight. Yeah, I just find that cool that like they're like, anytime a story does that, I'm really impressed, and I should see it coming, but I don't. That like you weave in the villain or someone who's like been there the entire time.
And you see this guy with the long nose in a bunch of the flashbacks.
Right, and you're like,
and you
"That's-
don't make the connection.
That's weird. Like he kind of
Yeah.
looks like that.
I was kind of like, oh, that guy looks a little like the Joker model. That's a weird choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they
Yeah.
should have been more creative.
It didn't occur to me that like,
And I specifically like that they don't name him. It's just kind of like you
He's
put
there.
together enough. It's like A equals B equals C.
yeah,
And they don't spell it out for you, which is fun. I think this movie does that in general well.
Yeah.
It trusts its audience to kind of follow
Mm-hmm.
where they're
Yeah.
going.
And then the other scenes are just anytime like you see batitized things. So like the thing at the World Fair, and when he's like puts on the ski mask and like he barely makes it out with his
Yeah.
life. He's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I'm like, that's a lot of
Ears. I think I need ears.
Ears. Ears.
I need pointy ears.
I need ears.
Yeah,
And just
Alright.
when like he dons the outfit for the first time, and then it like slowly builds up
Yeah.
and plays the Batman
Yeah.
theme.
That's a nice moment
Yeah,
for sure.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alfred's face in that
Alfred's,
scene.
like,
That's a
scared.
good. That's a good other scene. All right. So New Frontier.
So,
Scene
An-
shouts out.
Andy, do you want to
Shouts.
start on New
Shouts
Frontier
out.
so that you get first dibs, or do you want us to go around the way we've been going?
I'll start.
Okay,
'cause
go.
I want first dibs, but I don't think it's gonna be the same. When Girl Grodd's head exploded. No.
What happens
That sounds like your
when you
Hercules
punch
favorite.
the Iron Man?
I like it when he punches Hades in the face.
face.
My hair go out. That's a different scene. I know. When Hal realizes what this ring can do. So
Yeah.
it's 0 hour. They're inside of the center / Unicron, and all these like giant blood globules are about to like blow him and his friend up, and his ring activates, and it's like, you're like meant for this higher purpose. And then he goes all anime and like starts glowing and breaks the F out of everything and like saves everybody. But it's the manifestation of the willpower of this ring, and it's activated, and it's just this like, no, like let's like, I fire my blood right now. Let's just knock the F out of everything.
Yeah.
And when he also throws the center into space. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's sweet.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's my favorite moment.
Nice. Kate?
I've got one.
Go for it.
This movie is rated PG-13,
Yes.
and I didn't.
Butts.
Well, you'd think so, right? And yeah, we asked Andy before, and he's like, violence. I'm like, superheroes are inherently filled with violence.
No, I've
Like,
seen a Superman.
Yeah, I've seen a
Andy.
superhero movie.
I know what a Superman is.
You know, this was different.
Yeah.
It was dark. There was like the first scene has a suicide. The second scene has a cold blood murder. But one of the cool scenes, I think, was, and I think this worked because I had just enough knowledge, but not enough, where I think they're fighting with the dinosaurs by this point, and Wonder Woman comes in on her invisible plane, which I know is an invisible plane.
Oh.
So like she comes through the clouds, and like parts of the plane are being revealed by
Right, you're
clouds,
like,
but
"Oh,
the
cool.
cockpit is like
She's here."
outlined in red. I'm like, oh, that just must be a thing of Wonder Woman's plane
Yeah,
that I
like,
forgot.
she's, like, glowing
there's
with
a red
power.
cockpit. But then she crash lands. I'm like, oh, she's not good at riding this plane. And then you're like, oh, she's covered in blood, and that red that was outlining her cockpit was her blood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh no.
Oh no.
It's so
We're-
good.
She's
We're
been
in so
attacked
much
in
more
the
trouble.
Amazon land, and
Yeah.
she's coming to
Themyscira.
warn them.
It's such an effective moment.
It's
because
good, and
you're like, oh, that's weird. Why is that?
Yeah, like,
why'd
why
they
is that
throw that?
red?
Why is that art choice?
Oh, PG-13. Like,
Yeah. No.
yeah.
An
So
accordion player. Oh, a
I
guitar
like-
player. Oh no. This is the loudest thing in our world.
Yes.
uh,
That's true.
so that's it for me.
Yeah.
Bloody cockpit.
Okay, mine's a little sillier, but it
Good.
made me really happy. Oh my God, you're cheering it.
I hope that this is the scene I'm thinking.
Oh man, if it's not, tell me what that scene is. So at the beginning, Martian Manhunter is like, he's come to Earth.
Oh.
He's not yet hunting men. And he's just like trying to figure out what Earth is. So we see like a lot of shots of him watching TV in his apartment alone and taking the form of like, oh, this is a newsman. I will be a newsman. And he's like kind of trying to figure out his identity.
Yeah.
Which I think we all do. And at one point, and he becomes a detective because he saw like a detective on TV. He's like, cool, I'm a detective. But at one point, you just see him sitting, having transformed into Bugs Bunny, watching the TV. And it's so weird because it's not like off-model Bugs Bunny.
No.
It's not like, oh, this is a cartoon rabbit. Bugs Bunny is just there.
Right.
It's awesome.
That's a benefit of DC being owned by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
It's a
that they
good
can
little,
just-
like, we've talked about, like, good Mickey, like, good hidden Mickeys and obnoxious hidden Mickeys.
Yeah,
and
and
this is
it's-
a good hidden
yeah,
Bug.
it's
So,
not
like,
on
this
the
is-
hidden Mickey. There, you did it.
It's not like it's not a nod. He doesn't like look at the camera and go like, ain't
What's
I a
up,
stinker?
Doc? Yeah.
Like as Bugs Bunny, he's still like sitting and watching the TV.
Intently watching the TV, yeah.
But he just happens to be Bugs Bunny at the time. It's really cool.
I thought you were going to talk about the orange that they shrink ray down. And they're like, no, when you shrink ray something, and then they're like testing out this thing that they're going to do on the Unicron. And they're like, but when you shrink it, it becomes unstable. So this orange, they like do the ray on that shrinks. And then like Green Arrow or someone in the crowd goes, I have a question. And the guy's like, wait. Which was also just symbolic of how this movie went viewing-wise
Yeah,
for
like,
us as an audience.
Kate, I have a
Andy,
question.
I have a question. Andy,
Wait.
And then the orange just blows up.
So good.
Great.
So fun. Nice.
Yeah.
What do we do next? Crossovers?
We do MVP next.
MVPs.
Usually.
So MVP is we pick our favorite anything out of these
Entity.
two movies. So it can be like an actor, it can be a character. It can be whatever.
Sometimes it's an abstract quality.
Yeah, sometimes
I do
Kate-
that more than
Sometimes
Dick.
Kate is like, I liked friendship.
He doesn't like it when I
I
do that.
don't.
So
Yeah.
probably a personality of some sort would be best.
Yeah. Does anything jump to mind off the top of your head?
Do we just do one MVP?
Just one
Of both
for the
movies.
whole
Yes.
thing.
Good question.
Favorite whatever out of the whole thing.
I'm gonna go technical.
Yeah.
And by that I mean not a voice actor. Andrea Romano. Did I take yours?
Kind of. I
Okay.
should have gotten there,
Nice.
but that's a
Okay.
better one than mine.
Go for it.
For those of you who don't know, Andrea Romano is pretty much responsible for any cartoon or animated thing that you enjoy.
Huh.
The
She-
specific, yeah.
She is she's now retired, but she is a prolific voice director.
And she's a voice casting director.
And a voice
too.
casting
Yeah.
director as well. So she's able to pick things out and draw out performances for people who are now voice directors like Seth Green have learned from her because she's so good, and she is like she just looks like the grandma you always wanted. Apparently she can drink you under the table as well.
That I believe that.
Yeah, but she's voice casted SpongeBob and anything DC, Warner
Anything
Brothers
DC,
related.
yeah.
Nice.
Both of these movies.
Both of these movies.
DC is always well voice cast.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
And that's where Marvel can take their like live action movies and they're killing it with those. But DC
Yeah.
animated, there's no
Always
the-
been. the
everyone
top.
will be second to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look up Andrea Romano's IMDb page. It will just keep on going.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's always been there, and it's sad that she's no longer in the industry, but like she's inadvertently trained people.
She is in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Andy. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
That influences, because I was just going to say Mark Hamill again, but I knew that was not, because I said that for the Beyond, the
Yeah, you
Batman
did.
Beyond episode, but like he's not as big of a part of this Batman movie, and he's not in the other movie at all. But Andrea Romano is a better choice. So I'm going to say, in the same vein, I'm going to say Kevin Conroy because I feel like Mask of the Phantasm asks of him something that is not asked of him in the rest of his Batman career, which is like a compelling Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
He's basically
Yeah.
his Bruce Wayne is his Batman anywhere else, but this he was asked and stood up to the challenge of making Bruce Wayne different than Batman and giving him an arc that's different from Batman. And I think he does a really good job. Like, this is the best Bruce Wayne, or the Bruce Wayne that I've cared about the most.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Kevin Conroy, good for you. Also Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Because just Mark Hamill's the Joker. Guys.
Mark Hamill,
Everyone.
fantastic voice actor.
We should call him.
Luke
Fantastic
best.
Skywalker.
Four.
I would love to be able to call Mark Hamill. Look up any of his YouTube interviews. They're maybe some of the most awkward things I've seen.
We saw him in the
I Know That
That
Voice.
voice.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's in that.
But that's an
Have
edited
you guys reviewed
interview.
that?
We've talked about it.
It's still awkward. He's still Mark.
Yeah.
Sure.
That would be like a fun Bono episode.
Yeah.
Do like a couple voice acting.
Bono episode.
Yeah.
Bonosode.
Yeah. What do you call him?
Dick, who's your MVP of these two movies?
My MVP is Devil's Hop Yards.
no.
No.
Devil or Charlie or
So I'm
John?
gonna give this is you know what, like y'all kind of took the best ones. No, I'm gonna give it to
friends
the
we
Flash.
made along the way.
I can change
Oh, yeah.
one.
I'm gonna give it to the
Flash.
Flash.
Good.
I thought a character I have never cared about.
Same.
I just like, yeah, the Flash. Whatever, he runs fast. And like
Interesting.
the X-Men movie, like the recent X-Men movies had like Quicksilver, and he did some fun stuff, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. But this version of the Flash is the first time I've been like, oh, the Flash is kind of sweet. He's kind of really cool.
I wouldn't have minded if it turned into a Flash movie.
Yeah, I would watch a Flash movie
Yeah.
after this.
I wouldn't have either. That would have been fantastic.
And he's not like the main character of this movie. He's like a tertiary character, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
So the Flash.
Cool. So if you're gonna cross over these two movies,
Kate, you're gonna. I mean, I started one. Andy started one.
All
You're gonna
right.
start this last one
I guess
or
just
this third one.
If
You're gonna cross, so you can cross over.
Batman.
Anyone in these movies, any of the creatives, however you want to do it. Just take one thing from one movie, one thing from another movie, put them together in some way. Kate, how do you do it?
Cool. I want to put the most awkward members of the Justice League. So like probably Martian Manhunter and Superman. I want to like just invite them to a functioning World's Fair, like the first one in Mask of the Phantasm, and just like see how they respond.
Just watch Martian Manhunter ride rides.
And Superman, because I think they'd respond differently. Like Martian Manhunter would be all about it. Superman would be like, "This is too fun. I don't like this."
This
like
This is a
Yeah.
little disorganized. For
that
me.
would be
Their
really fun.
personalities are definitely switched in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, and because one of the things that I like about like going to a Disney park is like the dads who are kind of dragged into it. Like mom might actually want to go, the kids want to go, but then they get surprisingly tired. But like dad doesn't want to be there, and he has to deal with everyone around
And
him.
he's paired off with the daughter because it's like you got to spend more time with your daughter. So he's like on Small World 10 times in a day.
because like Superman and Martian Manhunter are both dads.
Yeah,
They are
Yeah.
different dads.
like they don't have children, but they're dads.
But put a dad in a theme park, it's my favorite. So I just want Superman and Martian Manhunter's day at the original Mask of the Phantasm World's Fair.
Superman is pretty Sam the Eagle in this movie.
Yeah, like you said in the first 30 seconds, like Superman does not come across well in this movie. He's like, government is your
doesn't.
friend all the
Yeah.
time.
Like I know
I
you
am friend
freed these
government.
women from
Government
captivity,
and
but
you shouldn't have let these women who were being raped by their captors have any
Yeah.
kind of vengeance on them. That was a bad choice.
yeah.
Fun fact: the second MVP is Lucy Lawless, Xenon Warrior Princess.
She's
as
Wonder Woman.
Diana.
She's
She's
basically
amazing.
Xena again.
Yeah, it is great.
DC Xena.
There's a great scene. These, as you said, these women are being like abused and raped and all sorts of bad things. She gives them a very like I don't want neutral choice. She like there's the captors on one side, the trapped women that are now freed on the other, and in the middle of them is like all the guns.
Pile of guns.
And Wonder Woman's just like, okay,
I just
go
let them
ahead.
choose whatever they wanted.
You're free. There's a bunch of weapons here.
And
Here's all
look,
your
Superman,
captors.
now there's only women here.
yes,
Make your own conclusion.
yeah,
And Superman is freaked out by this, but
He
he's
is.
just
Yeah,
being
Superman
challenged
does not
by a
like
he
it.
powerful woman.
is.
But also, this is going to be controversial, like our How Dogs Got Their Shapes episode. I don't care about Superman.
Yeah.
Kind of like pets. I
It's
don't care about Superman.
it's hard to care about
Pets
Superman
are way better than Superman.
unless you have his media portrayal isn't super great.
Super.
Okay, get out. All the best comics that I enjoy about him have him not fighting like a giant world-ending thing. It's these moral debates that he has.
I wish there was more of like Superman is an alien. There's a lot to be mined from
Yes.
that.
and there
I
was-
feel like
there was a
DC
little
doesn't
bit of
go to
that.
that well as often
No,
as they should.
two sons of immigrants, Jewish
Yeah.
immigrants, created Superman,
Yeah.
and at the beginning he was a socialist superhero, and by that I mean he
he fought for workers.
He fought for the workers. He took down corrupt politicians. He was all about using his powers.
Anti-discrimination, like
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a new story out right now called Superman versus the Klan, written by Jean Yun
Nice.
Lang or Yang. I'm sorry, the author of American Born Chinese, and a real story. How the Superman radio program outed
yeah.
the Klan's secret codes in somewhere in the South. I can't remember right now, but so Superman really did tackle the KKK
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
took them down in the area because the radio producers, like his son was friends with a member with the son of another like KKK member, and not the radio station host was a K. You know
Sure,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Read the story.
Yeah,
They
it's
had some-
great. It's real, and Superman helped
Yeah.
in the real world.
So, what's your crossover though?
My crossover. So we didn't talk about him a whole
Thanks
lot.
for bringing us back to the
You're
podcast.
welcome.
Thank you. King Faraday. He was the kind of like
Reverse skunk.
Reverse skunk.
reverse skunk.
White hair, black stripe.
Yes, he was like the CIA spook.
Wait,
that
did you say King Faraday?
King Faraday.
Oh,
His first name is King.
His first name is
He's
King.
not a king.
No.
Oh.
And Faraday means for a day. So King for a day. So his position is never permanent.
Not Penny's boat.
Full for
Not
a
Penny's
lifetime.
boat,
King
yes.
for a day.
So he is a CIA spooky man, and I think it would be great if he recruited the Phantasm to work for him.
Oh God.
He was all about like
Oh, no.
the bright
Oh,
new
that's
new
awesome.
orgastic future that Gatsby talked or that
Big,
Fitzgerald talked about
beautiful
at the end of
tomorrow. That song could easily be co-opted by Bad Forces.
Sure.
what song?
The Carousel of Progress song from
Oh
Disney.
yeah. He would utilize the shit out of Phantasm,
Mm.
and like she would be like, "Yeah, no, we're doing good work here, Faraday." So
We killing mobsters?
yeah,
Great. Done.
He in this world, I could see the government running the Justice League, and then you have like the Dark Justice League. That's like the people that like are okay with killing.
Dick, did you give a crossover for this episode?
Joker on Dinosaur Island.
Oh my gosh. That's the best.
Yeah.
Those are the only words
Like,
I need
I
to
feel like he probably rides
Say
a
no
dinosaur. He's friends with some dinosaurs.
kill some others.
Joker on Dinosaur
Joker.
Island.
Great.
Thanks. So how do we
All right.
wrap this up, Kate?
Well, the final
Final
cut is
Final cut.
we take each of these movies
Yeah.
one at a time and we decide whether right now, 2019, we would re-release,
Just put it right back in the theaters.
give a special edition,
Or we like improve it in some way, or change it to a ride,
or change
a
it to a different
museum
media.
piece.
Or do we throw it in the vault along with Song of the South?
Never
and
to be seen again.
probably what should be 2/3 of Peter Pan, but
Well, and I
that's
think
all
Titan,
up on Disney Plus.
I think Titan AE went there, right?
Titan A went there
Yeah.
for sure.
So there's some stuff.
Yeah.
Andy, I want
Mask
you
of
to
the Phantasm. What do
start
we
us
do with
out.
it?
Mask of the Phantasm.
So it's re-release or
Special edition. Like, do you change it in some way or alter its form? or do you toss it in the vault? It's not worth it.
Phantasm re-release in theaters.
Just put it right back out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do a special edition with those that are still able to talk about it.
Like a featurette
Yeah.
kind of deal?
Nice.
Okay.
I don't know how much they'd be able to say about it, but
Sure.
I mean, Bruce Timm's still here, Andrew Romano,
There's not a-
Kevin and Mark.
I don't know if we looked
Not
for special
really,
behind the scenes.
but-
There's not a lot.
There's
on
not
it.
a whole lot on the
Yeah.
edition I have.
It's not like a Disney movie where there's like 1,000 different behind the scenes
Right, from like
stories of
every 10 years
everything
of DVD
filmed
release.
all the way through.
Yeah.
Kate, what do you think? So Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, I think I re-release. It would be nice if there was a visual update, just kind of like a remastering. What we saw, I think, did we rent it on Vudu?
Yeah, I think it was Voodoo.
But on our like big 2019 high def screen,
Yeah.
there was some, like, not only did the good scenes look a little bit grainy, like especially the backgrounds, there were some just legitimate, like, for a couple frames it would be blurry, and I don't know whether that was a transfer to Vudu or like the service's fault or the movie, but like
Yeah.
you could have a remastering, like I mean, even the Justice League the New Frontier
Yeah.
was clearly like remastered for better
gorgeous,
screens
yeah.
from 2008.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I would do in Mask of the Phantasm.
Okay.
I think there is potential, like, we talk about the reboot culture and how we hate it, but like I think this would be maybe a good candidate for a reboot in that, like, it touches on some like psychological arcs, but I think it could be fleshed out more. And it's only an hour 15.
Yeah.
Even if you make it an hour 30, you can flesh out a little bit more. I think there was less of maybe a precedent to do that in animated movies in 1993 than there is now.
Yeah.
So like Pixar that shit. Maybe cry.
And in fairness, if you're rebooting Mask of the Phantasm, it's not like rebooting Batman. It's not like rebooting
No.
The Lion King. It's
just
like
one story.
kind of a more obscure Batman property that
Yeah.
you're taking. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But it's closest to re-release with
Yeah.
some digital remastering.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what I want.
All right.
I want a special edition made specifically for me.
Okay.
This is not for the public. It is
When you meet Bruce Timm, please invite me.
absolutely.
Thank you.
This special edition, it cuts out all the Batman and Joker shit and just shows us more of that World Fair. That's all.
You just want an animated World
It's
Fair.
just ride-throughs of all the rides.
just a camera up, like with the like crowd shots, and yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
That's my special
Good.
edition.
All right. New Frontier. What do you do, Andy?
Is it a re-release? Do you make some changes, or is it like
I make it longer. I
Yeah.
make it maybe double the time.
Oof.
2.5 hours? Oh,
2
no.
hours.
Okay.
So
I can deal with that.
Yeah, that was pretty short, right?
It
it was pretty
1:15.
short.
1:15. Yeah.
And I think you can
75
you could stand to explain a little bit more of the world that they're in right now. They cut out a lot. So let's say like all the graphic novels is like 300 pages. They probably use like 175 or like 150 of
That's
all the
pretty good.
pages, and they still told a really great story.
Yeah.
There's a when Faraday grabs a grenade and jumps into the mouth of a T-Rex and blows its head off. That is a recall to the beginning of the story. You see it very briefly. This group called the Losers. They find Dinosaur Island like back during World War II, and there's this really great story about like how they get picked off one by one on this island. Like Rick Flag gets away from Sergeant Rock. Anywho, there's a lot more to tell and a
Yeah.
lot more to make it more dense and explain more of it. I think you could have the center. You could tell more about the center. Just have it be more creeping.
Yeah.
I think you could, like show it in the beginning, have that moment with Captain Cold and the Flash, but then like have people forget about it, and then you're like, oh shit, the center, like what this, it's still here.
So it's not like an obvious thing all the way through. It's
right,
it's
right.
Like, oh, we forgot. Oh no, it's this thing.
Oh no, it's been here the entire
Nice.
time. So I would expand it at least by another. I mean, an hour. Why not?
Yeah.
45 at the minimum.
Yeah.
I can see that.
To add to it, just to have a more cohesive story, so you understand who, excuse me, Adam Strange is, and
why he's floating when everyone else is walking.
Exactly.
In a nice
They all look
picture.
so cool, and then he's just floating like
Like a
3 feet
jerk.
above everyone.
Is
Yeah.
he a bad guy? Do we hate Adam Strange?
we love Adam Strange. Adam Strange
He
is
ruins
like
pictures.
is he does. Got to move the camera up, get everyone.
It's a whole
Man.
thing.
Yeah, Adam Strange is like
All right.
a reverse Superman. He goes to another planet. It's like the hero there, but then it gets like drawn back to our planet because the
Like John Carter.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
John Carter.
Nice.
In a cool way though.
And less of a flop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kate.
Yeah.
Although John Carter had Willem Dafoe, so
I wanted the special edition. I want to make it a little bit sharper. It's kind of like Andy was saying. I want a little bit more density or like foreshadowing plots that are going to be important at the end. I enjoyed watching this movie front to back. Like it always looked cool. But I'm like, oh, I wish this like kind of political, philosophical thing they were talking about was more of a thread as opposed to
Yeah.
just this moment.
yeah.
I thought
So,
we'd
like,
get more of like that Wonder Woman.
I wanted a little
setup.
more, and it doesn't have to be tilted all that way. I want it
wish
like
we had
more
of that Wonder Woman thing as well.
Yeah.
tilted toward the balance of like Iron Giant, where like there's a government threat, and then you're like, oh, government is bad here, and
Yeah.
here's
Yeah.
what they're doing to this like foreign entity, and even though it's an alien robot, we can equate this with like other
Right.
countries. I wanted there
And
to
then
be
John Mahoney says it's okay, don't fire.
I wanted there to be more of a thread, and then more of a cognate to like, okay, if we're gonna go on this, like Superman's like, hey, Martian Manhunter is an alien, I'm an alien too, you don't trust him just because he looks different. Like
We're the
I'm
same
I
exact
am
thing.
anthropomorphic.
Yeah.
Like I look like a human, he looks green. Yeah.
Is anthropomorphic still the right term?
Well,
No, but
no, it's not.
it's all right.
It's not.
Okay.
I am human, Homo sapien.
It's,
Yeah.
No,
You-
but that's an interesting.
No, because
term,
the Martian is basically anthropomorphic. He's got
Yeah.
2 legs. He talks.
That's my favorite
But
word,
like,
by the way.
I look closer to you, so you trust me. But he looks
Mm-hmm.
different from you, so you don't trust him. That's an interesting theme to potentially explore. Maybe not in this movie, but like something like that, I think would have been appropriate in this movie because it's not all lasers and
And dinosaurs.
and dinosaurs. Like
a lot of it is.
there
but-
is thought behind it, and I think you could capitalize on that.
Yeah. There's interesting concept art from this artist who I think he did something called Dresden Code, that he made Superman an actual alien, like a non-human looking alien, but like he shifted into the Superman Clark Kent persona. That's I found the concept art like 10 years ago, but it's still like it's stuck with me. That's a really cool thing that like you can further drive home the point that like Superman is looking like us. He's
Right.
like Kryptonians are like
He's a white man with a crew cut. Like
yeah, yeah. It's just they decided to ink
It's
it instead of
curlicue,
color
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so one thing I do want to mention is that scene where Superman is like, hey, you don't trust this alien because he doesn't look like me. He just kind of walks away afterwards.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens when, like, Lady finds out that her spaceship was filled with atomic bombs. And she was not aware of this
Ferris,
to begin
yeah.
with. She, like, slaps dude.
Reverse
Faraday.
skunk.
Yeah, she slaps Faraday and then walks away.
Yeah.
This happens a couple times.
It's
in the
really
movie.
great.
It's a very weird. It's like, you.
Slap,
Bye.
beat, gone.
So here's what I do, and I agree with you, Kate, and with you, Andy, that there could be more to this. But the way I really love anything that's a tight 75 minutes, and I don't want to change that. So what I
Okay.
do is I take the political intrigue and I replace the title sequence that we have with a Watchmen / Incredibles style intro / title sequence
Okay.
that gives you just like here is a taste of what is going on politically.
Oh.
Here is like a
yeah.
taste of like for Watchmen, it's a music video, or it's like a song with stuff happening under it. In Incredibles, you've got like that newsreel.
It's newsreel, yeah.
Just something at the beginning to say like, hey, y'all,
That's
here's
really
what's
smart.
going on. And then we jump into the movie. Because I would watch a 2-hour version of this, but also, man, I love watching something that's like an hour and a half so that I can go eat
Well,
dinner.
and that would tighten it even, because even like from a 2019 perspective, I think at one point someone said like, "Oh, they're in Vietnam," but I'm like, I had to correct I'm like, no, it said 54.
So it's Korea.
That's Korea,
yeah.
right? Like, but those, I mean, for someone of our generation, those wars kind of blend into each. Like
Well,
Vietnam, I know what war
one's
that's
MASH
in.
and one's Forrest Gump.
Sure,
Oh.
but like if they had given specific like the Korean War,
Yeah.
and it's about this and this. And
Yeah,
here's
if we
what
had like a
else is
little
going
more
on.
background,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
No.
Cool.
Cool. Yo.
Well-
this was great. Andy, thank you for being
You're
a guest
welcome.
on this.
Great
and
suggestions.
bringing
too.
an awesome movie. Yeah.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
wanted to do Mask of the Phantasm, but New Frontier I had never known about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
For
There are a lot of
those
other
of
DC
you,
animated movies that we can watch as well.
Yeah.
if you have other DC animated
Double
movies
feature.
or any movies that you want us to talk about on this podcast, either a pair or a single movie that you would like us to choose a pair from,
Yeah.
or I don't know, insight on Gorilla Iron Man, reach out to us. We're Cellmates Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, at
email.
gmail.com.
Yeah.
Did you say just email?
Yeah.
And .com.
Yes.
You can't reach out to us there, but the other three you can.
Yeah.
So suggest stuff. Rate, review, like us. That always feels weird to say, but
Andy,
I
do
guess that
you want to
helps.
plug anything?
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe. I have nothing.
You're on
Excellent.
Instagram. We
I'm
are
on,
not.
I'm on Instagram.
you're
Yeah.
not
Do you want to
gonna-
plug your Insta?
My account is private, and I just I post Gundam things when I feel like it.
So I'd like to
Never
plug,
mind.
I'd like to plug being friends with Andy so that you can eventually be friends with him on PlayStation or Insta.
For Cellmates Podcast.
I'm Dick
Sure.
Ward.
Thanks, Andy Phillips.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Kate
I'm
Phillips,
Kate Phillips.
Let's do this whole thing again. I'm Dick Ward.
Kate Phillips.
Andy Phillips.
Bye.
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 Stay super.
Super self.
Kate
It's
and
in
I
the-
had a long discussion.
in the
Not a long
80s.
discussion. We had a discussion about the time period of Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Neither of us
It's
know what time period
19
it is.
Art
We just know
Deco.
we disagree.
Well, this puts it, the movie does, but like when I'm watching the series, I'm like, oh, it's like fancy 1992. I don't
That's on
know.
purpose.
But then it's
Bruce
like,
Timm decided
but
to be,
he's like, all the cars are weird. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
all the cars are weird.
Right. It's like the dream episode where you thought you couldn't read in dreams, and that's what prevented me from reading in dreams for the last
excuse me.
20 years.